Chapter 4863. While Xiao Hua was inspecting the disciples in the hall, he found that someone from the Chanha school was already able to use the secret technique. However, this person surprised Xiao Hua. This disciple was not a nascent soul cultivator like Xia Feng, nor was it a golden core cultivator like Hong Feng. It was Nua Yeching, a foundation establishment cultivator. Xiao Hua was pleasantly surprised. He let Nua Yeching try it out on a few children who were waiting to be selected. Although there were some mistakes at the beginning, after Xiao Hua pointed out a few more tricks, Nua Yeching was already able to successfully select the children with spirit roots. Moreover, her judgment of the spirit roots was also correct. Good. Xiao Hua patted Nua Yeching's shoulder and smiled. You really do have some fate with this old man. I'll leave the task of teaching Palace Master Xia and Vice Palace Master Yun to you. Xia Feng and Yun Songyu had very awkward expressions. Xiao Hua couldn't help but smile. He naturally wouldn't let a nascent soul cultivator lose face. While he had Nua Yeching report to Lu Qingyu in detail, he called Lu Hanhuan, Xia Feng, Yun Songyu, and the others in front of a child with an earth-type spiritual root that Nua Yeching had just selected. He carefully discussed with them how to refine the magic tool. After Lu Hanhuan and the others memorized the magic tool's formation and the secret technique, Lu Qingyu and the others gradually understood the secret technique. One by one, they gradually began to enter the hall. Xiao Hua didn't neglect them. He had each of them be responsible for the test of 10 children waiting to be selected. As for Lu Hanhuan and the others, they went to refine the magic tool. 10 children, it wasn't a lot, but it wasn't a small number either. Under Xiao Hua's occasional pointers, Lu Qingyu and the others repeatedly practiced. When night came, most of the 50 Chanha school disciples were able to control the secret technique skillfully. They were able to select the children with spiritual roots that they were responsible for. Seeing that everyone was in high spirits, Xiao Hua reminded them. Let's stop here for today. The children are tired. Let them go back and rest. After saying that, Xiao Hua no longer paid attention to the Yulan Hall disciples and walked out of the hall. All the disciples didn't dare to neglect Xiao Hua and respectfully sent him off. When Xiao Hua returned to the flowing palace, he closed his eyes and rested for a moment. Then, a smile appeared on his face. He sent out his spiritual sense and carefully read the jade strip that Lu Hanhuan took out yesterday. There weren't many things recorded in the Yilin continent in this jade slip. Instead, there were many records of the Chan He sect's establishment and development plans, as well as the deeds of the previous sect masters and famous disciples. Xiao Hua didn't have any impatience and patiently looked through it. In the following 10 days, Xiao Hua guided the Chan He sect disciples in the Yulan Hall to familiarize themselves with the selection Dharma art. He also guided Lu Hanhuan, Xia Feng, and the others in refining the selection Dharma artifact. At the same time, he asked Lu Hanhuan to take out the Chan He sect's cultivation technique and modify it bit by bit according to his understanding of the laws of heaven and earth. When night fell, Xiao Hua returned to the flowing hall and checked the manuals of the Chan He sect. From time to time, he would call Lu Hanhuan over to ask. It was during these fulfilling days that Yu Zhuohong returned from the auction. There was no need for Zhuohong to report too much. Xiao Hua looked at the excitement in Lu Hanhuan's eyes and knew that the Chan He sect had gained a lot from this auction. Yu Zhuohong roughly explained the situation of the auction and took out the crystals, jade slips, and other items that he had obtained and placed them in front of Xiao Hua. Xiao Hua casually took the jade slip and checked it with his divine sense. He smiled and said, "Thank you for your trouble, Elder Yu." Yu Zhuohong had long known about Xiao Hua's actions. Now, he was even more respectful. He bowed and said, "Compared to what Senior has done for my Chan He sect, what Junior has done is really insignificant. Moreover, this auction only involved cultivators from the Fengyan nation and a few nearby nations. The owner of the auction didn't seem to be present. Junior didn't help Senior find out about the Defeat You Immortal Alliance. I've really disappointed Senior." It's fine, it's fine." Xiao Hua waved his hand and said, "If you can't do it this time, there will be a next time. This disciple selection secret technique is so popular. If the Chanhe sect doesn't take advantage of this opportunity to make a big profit, you've really let this old man down. Yes, yes. Yuzhuahong's face also flushed red. In his memory, the Chanhe sect hadn't been so popular in the auction for a long time. Senior. Lu Hanhuan, who was at the side, said with some surprise. Junior boldly asks, where exactly is the Defeat You Immortal Alliance that you're looking for in the Yilin continent? In Junior's impression, my Yilin continent seems to have two cultivation alliances, the Tao Alliance and the Heaven Alliance. These two alliances are formed by the sects and families of dozens of nations. The Fengyan nation should belong to the Tao Alliance in the northeast. When Junior was still a low-level cultivator, the Tao Alliance and the Heaven Alliance had some disputes and wars. Even within the alliance, there were often fights. However, due to the great change in the spiritual energy of heaven and earth, these fights have become fewer and fewer, not to mention large-scale battles. Hee. Xiaohua put down the jade slip in his hand and said with a smile, this old man doesn't know where the Defeat You Immortal Alliance is, but according to this old man's speculation, that Sing Immortal Alliance should be in the east of the Yilin continent, not far from the Wu Meng mountain range. As for the Tao Alliance and the Heaven Alliance, this old man has already seen them from your Chanhe sect's records. However, this old man is a little puzzled. When this old man asked about the Defeat You Immortal Alliance, why didn't you mention the Tao Alliance? Lu Hanhuan's face was a little embarrassed as he said in a low voice, I won't hide it from Senior. In the early years of the Fengyan nation, there were many sects like my Chanhe sect. My Fengyan nation belongs to the Tao Alliance in name, but only the fallen immortal sect, Chongwei sect, Supa Mountain, and Liyan sect can appear in the Tao Alliance. My Chanhe sect seems to have participated in the war between the Tao Alliance and the Immortal Alliance once 100,000 years ago, but never again. If Senior didn't mention the Immortal Alliance, Junior would have almost forgotten about these two Tao Alliance. That's not all. Xiaohua said with a smile, looking at the records in your sect, the Tao Alliance has 81 Immortal Alliances, hundreds and thousands of countries, and 120 cultivation families. The Fengyan nation is also the country closest to the northeast of the Yilin continent. Even the fallen immortal sect doesn't seem to be in the top 100 of the Tao Alliance, right? Hee. Lu Hanhuan laughed and said with an indifferent look, so, it's normal for Junior to not remember the Tao Alliance and the Heaven Alliance. Perhaps the sect leader of the fallen immortal sect has already forgotten about the Tao Alliance. No. Xiaohua shook his head slightly and said, you're wrong. Although the change in the heaven and earth spiritual qi had changed the development of the Tao sects, and regardless of whether it was the Tao Alliance or the Heaven Alliance, they were both declining rapidly. However, this was also an era where new forces were emerging. Whoever could quickly grasp a new cultivation method, or a new method of selecting disciples, would be able to lead the Yilin continent. Moreover, don't worry, in the Yilin continent that you can't see, no matter whether it's between the Tao Alliance and the Heaven Alliance, or within the Tao Alliance and the Heaven Alliance, the same battles and killings still exist. Hiss. Hearing this, Lu Hanhuan couldn't help but suck in a breath of cold air, as if he had understood something. His face instantly turned pale, but he still argued, but the cultivation technique of the Heaven Alliance seems to be different from that of the Tao Alliance. Different? Xiaohua was slightly stunned, but he instantly understood. He thought to himself, the Tao Alliance cultivates the nascent soul, and the Heaven Alliance and the Tao Alliance are opposing each other. If I'm not wrong, they're probably cultivating the primordial soul. It's a pity that the Chanhe sect is too small, and there are no records of this at all. Senior. Yuzhuahong also thought of something, and his face turned pale as well. He looked around naturally and said in shock, you mean that the Chanhe sect is now in a place where a huge opportunity lies. Xiaohua pinched his chin and answered with narrowed eyes, if sect leader Lu can grasp this opportunity, the Chanhe sect in the future will not be the Chanhe sect now. I believe that even the fallen immortal sect will have to look up to the Chanhe sect in the future. However, if sect leader Lu can't grasp this opportunity, the Chanhe sect will be in extreme danger. At this moment, Lu Hanhuan already had no mood to listen to what Xiao Hua was saying. His previous passion was as if it had been doused by ice water, and it was chilling to the core. He already knew how dangerous the situation was for him and the Chanhe sect. It was true that the modified cultivation method was good, but a man's wealth was his own ruin. If the Chanhe sect had this beautiful jade, it would be known by other sects sooner or later. Who knows, a huge disaster might befall them one day. At this point, Xiao Hua said embarrassedly, "This is also my fault. I just came out of seclusion, and I don't know much about the situation in the Yilin continent. It was only these few days that I found out about the current situation in the Yilin continent after reading the ancient books." Yu Zhuohong pondered for a moment, and the paleness on his face faded slightly. He looked at Lu Hanhuan and said, "Sect leader, what senior said makes sense. Opportunities will never come for no reason. If there is no huge disaster, how can there be a huge opportunity? Previously, when I entered the auction, I was also a little afraid. However, when I was bidding for the secret technique, I understood. What senior said earlier is really the way to solve this disaster. The Chanhe sect should make the secret technique and cultivation method public as soon as possible, and even join forces with the famous sects under the Taoist Union. This is the way for the Chanhe sect to protect ourselves. Yes, this is a serious matter. I need to think carefully." Lu Hanhuan understood this. He thought for a while and nodded, "Follow me to the Ming Xian Hall first and discuss with Elder Pang. After Elder Gao returns, we will make a decision." "Oh? Elder Gao hasn't returned yet?" Yu Zhuohong asked curiously. Although the Chanhe sect doesn't have a transportation array directly to the fallen immortal sect, it shouldn't take so long. Sigh. Lu Hanhuan sighed. Elder Gao is an elder in the Chanhe sect, but in the fallen immortal sect, she is just an ordinary nascent soul cultivator. How can she casually meet the sect leader of the fallen immortal sect? The array flag of the heavenly cycle demon subduing star array can't be revealed casually. I'm afraid Elder Gao won't be back soon. But Yu Zhuohong wanted to say something, but when he saw Xiao Hua beside him, he swallowed his words. Then, he took out a jade slip from his chest and handed it to Xiao Hua respectfully. "Senior, although I didn't find out any information about the fallen immortal sect, I heard from a few cultivators that the transportation route from the Fengyan Kingdom to the Chia Kingdom, which is the border of the Taoist Union. The Wuming Mountain Range is in the east of the Yilin continent. If you want to go to the Wuming Mountain Range, you have to at least reach the Chia Kingdom first. In addition, I also bought the topographic map of the Yilin continent and the power distribution of some of the cultivation sects in the Heaven Alliance. Senior, please take your time to check. P.S. Fellow cultivators who like this book, please subscribe to it at Qidian, vote for it, vote for it, vote for it, give it as a reward, and Chapter 4864. Very good. Xiao Hua took the jade scroll with a smile and looked at the crystals in front of him. He asked Lu Hanhuan, "Sect Master Lu, do you have any extra storage bracelets?" Yes. Lu Hanhuan hurriedly took out a storage bracelet and handed it to Xiao Hua respectfully. "Junior's storage bracelet's quality is not particularly good, it doesn't matter." Xiao Hua took it with a smile and said, "I'm just using it temporarily. If the quality is good, it would be a waste." Seeing Xiao Hua put the jade scroll into the storage bracelet, Lu Hanhuan and Yu Zhuohong looked at each other and prepared to leave. Xiao Hua waved his hand and gave most of the crystals to Lu Hanhuan. "Sect Master Lu, I don't need so many crystals. I'll give these to your Chanhe sect." Lu Hanhuan still wanted to decline, but at this moment, with a swoosh, a fist-sized cyan crane-like object flew in from outside the hall. It drew a faint arc and landed in front of Lu Hanhuan's eyes. Lu Hanhuan was stunned and looked at Xiao Hua and Yu Zhuohong. He raised his hand and pointed at the green crane's forehead. Pung! The green crane exploded and Gao Cheng's voice came from inside, reporting to Sect Master, "I've brought back the fallen immortal sect disciples. Sect Master, please send the disciples to welcome them. Elder Gao has finally returned. Lu Hanhuan laughed loudly, looking as if a heavy burden had been lifted from his shoulders. Then, Lu Hanhuan did not say anything else and kept the crystals. He said respectfully, Senior, please cultivate here. I'll go welcome the fallen immortal sect disciples. Go, go. Xiaohua waved his hand and Lu Hanhuan hurriedly left with Yu Zhuohong. Xiaohua sat down and used his divine perception to check the jade scroll that Yu Zhuohong brought back. He smiled and thought to himself, that's right, this Yilan continent is the other side of the Dawn Rain continent. The terrain of this Yilan continent is almost the same as what Feng Wu got from the Great Sage Hall. It's just that the corner of the Dawn Rain continent is missing. Moreover, the Yilan continent has the Dao Alliance and the Heaven Alliance, which coincides with the name of the Heavenly Dao Realm. This Yilan continent must be the Heavenly Dao Realm that the Swift Cherry Supreme Sage mentioned. What's special is that the Dao sects in Yilan continent are indeed very prosperous. It's hard for the Dawn Rain continent to reach it. There was actually a transmission channel from the remote Fengyan Kingdom to the so-called Chia Kingdom. Although he did not know how to get to Wuming Mountain from Chia Kingdom, there should be other teleportation channels in the territory of the Heavenly Alliance, right? As long as I use the crystal stones, I can easily reach the Wumeng Mountain range. Looks like the trip to the Yilin continent will be much smoother than the 10,000 demon realm. A trace of regret appeared in Xiao Hua's heart when he thought of success. He regretted pushing the Chan He sect into the limelight. He also regretted giving the Chan He sect the secret technique to select disciples before he recovered his divine ability. What about the modified cultivation method? Should we give it to them? Xiao Hua secretly asked himself. After these days of inspection and comprehension, Xiao Hua already had some knowledge of the cultivation methods below the nascent soul stage. He could record them in a jade slip and hand them over to the Chan He sect at any time. However, whether these cultivation methods were a blessing or a curse to Lu Hanhuan was not something Xiao Hua could grasp. Let's see Lu Hanhuan's choice. Xiao Hua quickly made a decision. If he is ambitious, there is no harm in giving these cultivation methods to him. But if he wants to stay in the Fengyan Kingdom, these cultivation methods, there is no need to give them to him. Soon after, Xiao Hua waved his hand. He didn't need to use any technique at all. The candle-like magic tool that had stopped on one of the corona rose up and landed on the shadow of the other corona's needle. Shwa. When another rainbow appeared, Xiao Hua casually took out a jade slip from inside and carefully looked at it. After a long time, Xiao Hua suddenly raised his eyebrows and looked outside the hall. There was a smile on his face, and he said loudly, "Let him in." In a moment, Nua Yeqing quickly walked in from outside the hall and bowed. Junior greets Senior Zhang. Please forgive me for disturbing Senior's meditation. Get up. Xiao Hua floated up and waved his hand. Yeqing, do you have something urgent? Why did you come here at this time? Nua Yeqing bit her lips and looked at Xiao Hua. Senior, Junior, wants to ask Senior a question. After Senior answers, Junior will tell Senior in detail. Xiao Hua raised his eyebrows and asked curiously, Say it, what do you want to ask? Senior. Nua Yeqing looked around and asked in a low voice, Can Sect Master hear Junior's words? He doesn't dare. Xiao Hua said with a smile, You can ask. It's like this. Nua Yeqing thought for a moment and said, Junior heard Senior say that you want to go to the Wuming Mountain Range. Do you want to go to the Wuming Mountain Range? Or do you want to go to the Wuming Mountain Range? Oh. Xiao Hua was dumbfounded. He originally thought that Nua Yeqing had received instructions from Lu Qingyu or Hong Feng, and had come to look for him in search of a modified cultivation method. He never thought that he would actually ask about the Wuming Mountain Range. Xiao Hua didn't hide it and answered, I want to go to the Wuming Mountain Range. However, it's fine if you don't know why I want to go there. Then. Senior, can you take Junior with you? Nua Yeqing's face was filled with joy, and she hurriedly begged with a kind of eagerness in her eyes. You want to go to the Wuming Mountain Range? Xiao Hua was even more puzzled and asked, "Why do you want to go to the Wuming mountain range? Besides, if you want to go, you can go anytime. Why do you want to go with me?" Junior has a reason to go to the Wuming mountain range, but Junior wants to keep it a secret for now. Of course, Senior will have to keep it a secret for me. Nua Yeqing knew that Xiao Hua liked to be straightforward, so she simply told him everything. When we get to the Wuming mountain range, Junior will tell Senior everything. Junior has told Master about this before, but Master said that the distance between the Wuming mountain range and the Xingyin mountain range is more than 1,000,000 miles. It's too dangerous, and even he doesn't have the confidence to reach the Wuming mountain range, so he doesn't agree with Junior going. Hee, now that you know that I'm going, you want to go with me? Xiao Hua asked with a smile. Nua Yeqing lowered her head in embarrassment and nodded slightly. Was it your idea, or was it Lu Qingyu's idea? Xiao Hua asked with interest. Nua Yeqing hurriedly raised her head and said, "This has nothing to do with Master. He's comprehending the secret skill that Senior gave him. You're going to the Wuming mountain range with me, so how are you going to come back?" Xiao Hua asked meaningfully, "Or you don't plan to come back at all?" This. Nua Yeqing looked a little flustered. She hesitated for a moment before answering, "Senior, I'll tell you everything before we get to the Wuming mountain range. At this time, I hope Senior won't force me." Yes, this old man understands. Xiao Hua didn't understand why Nua Yeqing wanted to go to the Wuming mountain range, but he still wanted to come. He replied, "I can't answer you now. Can you let me think about it first?" "Yes, I'm sorry for disturbing Senior. If Senior finds it difficult, just pretend that I didn't say anything." Nua Yeqing hurriedly bowed and said, "I'll take my leave." Seeing Nua Yeqing hastily turn around and leave, Xiao Hua bitterly smiled and shook his head. He then picked up the jade slip. However, before Xiao Hua could look at it for half an hour, boom boom boom. Outside the flowing time hall, a series of faint rumbling sounds resounded. Soon after, the light and shadow within the hall dimmed. The world spirit chi in the vicinity was like a whirlwind blowing towards the outside of the hall. After that, Xiao Hua felt the entire hall begin to slightly tremble and sway. "Oh. What's going on?" Xiao Hua was surprised. Could it be that the fallen immortal sect disciples are dissatisfied with the Chanhe sect and have started to attack them? Thinking of this, Xiao Hua got up and walked out of the passage hall slowly. Lu Hanhuan hurriedly flew out of the passage hall. He didn't dare to hesitate and ordered Yu Zhuohong, "Elder Yu, quickly send out my order. Send out the guest welcoming array to welcome the fallen immortal sect disciples." "Yes, sect master." After receiving the order, Yu Zhuohong hurriedly flew away. In less than half a cup of tea's time, boom, boom. Several rays of light appeared from Xingyin Ridge and rushed into the night sky, illuminating the area as bright as day. At the same time, groups of disciples in bright clothes flew out of the hall and lined up in a neat formation. They stood in front of the mountain gate of the Chanhe sect. There were thousands of disciples standing in midair. There were also some graceful female disciples holding pipa or flute in their hands. Following an old woman's hand gesture, the sound of strings and bamboo and the sound of zither started to sound slowly. Lu Hanhuan had already changed his clothes. He brought Yu Zhuohong and Pang Lusheng out of the mountain gate and stood respectfully in midair. In the time it took to eat a meal, in the night sky, a light boat flew over. This flying boat was only a few feet long. There were many runes engraved on the boat. A layer of faint red light shone out from these runes, illuminating the nearby night sky. In the faint red light, there was a sign floating in front of the flying boat that looked like a mountain range. It was very eye-catching. A low and almost inaudible rumbling sound came from this sign. Layers of heaven and earth spirit energy seeped out from the void and fell into this sign. Inside the flying boat, there were more than 10 cultivators in embroidered clothes. These cultivators all had dignified appearances and a heroic spirit. They emitted a faint fluctuation around their bodies. When this fluctuation landed on the flying boat, the faint red color of the flying boat became even brighter. Lu Hanhuan saw the extremely eye-catching mountain range sign in the night sky and a smile appeared on his face. He urged his body forward to welcome it. Yu Shuahong and Pang Luxing didn't dare to be negligent and followed carefully. P.S. Fellow Taoists who like this book, please go to Qidian to subscribe to support, vote for a month, vote for a recommendation, collect, reward, and thank you for all forms of support. Chapter 4865. On the flying boat, Elder Gao Cheng was standing in front of the cultivators. Seeing the Chan He sect's disciples lined up to welcome them, Gao Cheng smiled and turned to the cultivator with a face like a full moon. Daoist Zhe, this is the mountain gate of our Chan He sect. The one flying in front is our sect leader Lu Hanhuan. The woman behind him is Elder Yu Shuahong and the other is Elder Pang Luxing. Before Daoist Zhe could speak, a slightly short cultivator behind him snorted coldly and said, TSK, Gao Cheng, your sect leader is actually a late-stage, nascent soul cultivator. This is truly beyond my expectations. In that case, any one of us brothers can establish a sect in the vicinity of Nebula Ridge? Not at all. Gao Cheng laughed. If Daoist Fan establishes a sect near Xingyin Ridge, how can our Chan He sect compete with the fallen immortal sect? Our Chan He sect is willing to give Xingyin Ridge to Daoist Fan. Daoist Fan seemed to be very happy. He laughed loudly and said, if my sect leader knew that I, Fan, had chased away the Chan He sect, who had helped the fallen immortal sect, wouldn't he skin me alive? Forget it, this is not a good deal. Junior brother Fan. Senior brother Zhe laughed. Don't underestimate the Chan He sect. It has been established for almost 100,000 years. Any sect that can be established for so long in our Fengyan country must have its unique points. Lu Hanhuan may be in the late stage, nascent soul stage, but that is because he is burdened by the sect and cannot concentrate on cultivation. Otherwise, he will definitely surpass us and reach the spirit severing stage. Senior brother Zhe had just finished speaking when someone behind junior brother Fan laughed. Reach the spirit severing stage? That depends on whether he can pass the spirit severing stage lightning tribulation. I have reached the mid-stage nascent soul stage, but I still don't have any confidence that I can pass the lightning tribulation. There was silence on the flying boat. Senior brother Zhe smiled and was about to speak when Lu Hanhuan's voice was heard. Are you a disciple of the fallen immortal sect? I am Lu Hanhuan. I am here to welcome you all. Ahem, junior brothers, sect master Lu of the Chan He sect has personally come to welcome you. Everyone, pull yourselves together. Don't embarrass the fallen immortal sect. Senior martial brother Zhe coughed twice. As a reminder, he tidied up his clothes and stepped out of the flying boat. He cupped his hands and said with a smile, I'm Zhe Jun from the falling immortal sect. Greetings, sect leader Lu. After the banished ruler flew out of the flying boat, Gao Cheng smiled and also flew up from the flying boat. He raised his left hand and said respectfully, fellow Taoists, please. Fellow Taoist Gao, please. Smiles returned to the faces of the fallen immortal sect's disciples. The fight between your Chan He sect and the Flying Shadow sect is actually a difficulty that you want us to help you with? That's right. Gao Cheng hurriedly explained, my Chan He sect and the Flying Shadow sect have a feud that is difficult to resolve. The Flying Shadow sect wants to force my Chan He sect to leave Xingyin Ridge. Therefore, my sect leader wants the fallen immortal sect to mediate and end this feud. This is very difficult for my Chan He sect. However, in the eyes of the fallen immortal sect, it is very simple. But Daoist friend Gao should explain clearly. The banished ruler said unhappily, although there is nothing that the fallen immortal sect cannot do in the Fengyan kingdom, this is a dispute between the two sections. But fellow Daoist, you should have told us about the conflict between the sects in advance. Gao Cheng felt wronged and said, Daoist friend banished ruler, it is not that I don't want to say it. However, as soon as I said it, you were attracted by the banner of the heavenly cycle demon subduing star formation and ignored me. I think, you didn't hear what I said clearly, right? Forget it, it is useless to talk about this now. The banished ruler looked at the night sky and saw the disciples of the flying shadow sect standing on both the flying beasts and the demonic beasts. He smiled bitterly and said to Lu Hanhuan, "Sect leader Lu, let's activate the sect protection array first. When the sect leader of the flying shadow sect comes, I will go and take a look at the situation." Okay. Lu Hanhuan had been ready for a long time. When he heard the banished ruler's words, he hurriedly waved his hand. Gee! A sharp sound rose into the sky. A halo the size of a fist extended into the sky. When it stopped, with a loud bang, a petal that was hundreds of feet in size bloomed from the halo. When the petal opened, 8 rays of light of different colors appeared at the tips of the 8 petals. These rays of light formed an arc and slid down in the night sky. Where the rays of light landed, ripples appeared. When the rays of light landed around the nebula ridge, boom! 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 The entire nebula ridge shook. Faint clouds surged out from the ground. Countless light curtains moved against the sky. In a moment, an 8-colored sect protection array was activated. As for the disciples of the Chanhe sect, when Lu Hanhuan waved his hand, they had already activated their figures and divided into 64 teams. Each team had 64 disciples. These teams flew to different parts of the sect protection array. From afar, the 8 teams formed a star formation. The entire sect protection array was like 8 shining stars. Oh! The banished ruler was slightly stunned. He said with surprise, "Sect leader Lu, is this the 4 stars formation?" Taoist friend banished, you are indeed from a famous sect. This is the 4 stars formation that has been passed down for generations in the Chanhe sect. Amazing. The banished ruler nodded and said, I didn't expect to see the 4 stars formation in such a remote place. No wonder the Chanhe sect has been standing for so long. I admire you. I don't dare. I've embarrassed myself in front of you. Lu Hanhuan hurriedly smiled and said, the Chanhe sect is just a small sect. How can it be compared to the fallen immortal sect? Although the sect protection array has been set up, I don't have the confidence to resist the attack of the flying shadow sect. We have to rely on the fallen immortal sect. Ha ha ha, it's okay, it's okay. Before the banished ruler could reply, Fan Di laughed and said, if we didn't come tonight, we wouldn't have said anything. But since we are here, and the fallen immortal sect has benefited from the Chanhe sect, how can we let the Chanhe sect suffer under the flying shadow sect? Lu Pingxi and the others stood in the distance and frowned as they looked beyond the clouds. The beasts and birds of the flying shadow sect covered the sky and covered the earth. They were whispering to each other through voice transmission. Hearing Fandi's words, Lu Hanhuan hurriedly said, Junior brother Fan, you can't say too much. Unfortunately, before Lu Pingxi could finish, the banished ruler sneered and said, it's just a small sect. Why do you need to be arrogant? We have more than 10 nascent soul stage cultivators. Can't we take down the flying shadow sect? Humph. Fan Di snorted and said, that's right. If we don't drive the flying shadow sect away today, how can we return to the fallen immortal sect? Buzz buzz buzz. As Fan Di was speaking, another low rumbling sound came from the night sky. Between the birds and the beasts, tens of thousands of black dots appeared. These black dots were the size of a fist, and they were completely black. In the dark night, they were actually glowing. At the edges of the glowing dots, there was a pair of thin transparent wings flashing rapidly. The rumbling sound came from this flapping sound. P.S. Fellow cultivators who like this book, please subscribe to it at Qidian, vote for it, vote for it, vote for it, donate it, and... Chapter 4866. Damn it. Are these spirit-swallowing bugs? Banished Lord's face changed slightly, and he said in a low voice. Fan Di's face also darkened. She bit her lips and didn't say anything. After the spirit-swallowing bugs flew out, the whole world was immersed in an inexplicable darkness. Even though the Chanha sect's mountain guarding formation was surging with 8-colored brilliance, and even though there were strange lights around the birds and beasts, they couldn't stop the desolation in the darkness. The darkness not only blocked people's eyes, but also soaked people's hearts. The darkness and desolation swept across the earth and the sky. In just a few breaths, coo, coo, coo. A rooster's crowing came from nowhere. The sound was very low and weak, but it was like a sharp sword piercing into the darkness. In the distance, in the east, the first light of dawn had also appeared. The darkness that had soaked people's hearts suddenly disappeared. The helplessness in the darkness suddenly turned into a bud of hope, and it bloomed instantly with the dawn in the sky. Lu Hanhuan's hope might not have bloomed, but he looked at the sunlight in the distance, and then his eyes fell on the handsome cultivators of the fallen immortal sect. His hope had fallen on the shoulders of these arrogant cultivators. However, there was a trace of worry in the eyes of these arrogant cultivators. This was because within 1,000 miles of the Nebula Ridge, there were already flying beasts everywhere. These flying beasts were all huge in size, and on the back of each flying beast, there were cultivators dressed in strange clothes. These cultivators' faces, arms, and necks were engraved with strange patterns. The patterns were either beast heads, skulls, flowers, or stars and moons. These cultivators were a size larger than ordinary cultivators, and their muscles were as tough as mountain rocks on their muscular bodies. These cultivators drove the birds and beasts to surround the Nebula Ridge, but they didn't rush to attack. The spirit-swallowing bugs, which were as black as before, were now shining brightly, like flashing black fog, covering the sky. As the morning sun shone light from the horizon, woo, woo, woo. A series of rhythmic noises sounded again, and thousands of cultivators with various magic weapons formed a team and flew over with the wind. Ha ha ha. Loud and clear laughter sounded like a horn. Roar. In the laughter, a deafening roar sounded. In the orange-red sunlight, a red boa dragon, which was thousands of feet long, flew out of the team. A man held a long halberd in his hand, and he stood on the boa dragon, facing the sunlight. The boa dragon rushed to the Nebula Ridge in the sky, and the birds, beasts, and spirit-swallowing bugs all made way. When the boa dragon circled half a circle in the sky above the Nebula Ridge, it suddenly raised its head. Roar. With a loud roar, a fire pillar, which was dozens of feet long, shot out from the boa dragon's mouth, and hit the protective array of the Chanhi sect. Buzz. The protective array of the Chanhi sect shook rapidly. Where the fire pillar landed, light splashed in all directions, and the clouds were broken. Dozens of disciples of the Chanhi sect, who were responsible for defending this area, were knocked down from the sky by the counterforce. The disciples of the other teams hurriedly activated their magic incantations, and their Dharma powers surged, barely protecting the protective array. Seeing that the attack didn't work, the boa dragon roared again. In the wind and clouds, the boa dragon's ferocious head was tightly attached to the protective array. Ah! A timid disciple of the Chanhi sect was guarding the array. Seeing the terrifying boa head, he screamed and flew back hundreds of feet. Damn it! Lu Hanhuan cursed in a low voice. Before he could speak, a tall cultivator, who was almost naked, on the boa dragon, looked up to the sky and laughed. The cultivator's body, which was covered with animal stripes, flashed a strange brilliance under the sunlight, and a dragon-shaped light shadow loomed in the brilliance. The cultivator's head was 3 times thicker than that of ordinary cultivators, and a few pieces of golden dragon scales were embedded around his cheeks. The cultivator's eyebrows were thick, and his cheekbones were bulging. Lines of runes, which looked like dragon stripes, were engraved around his cheekbones, connecting his eyes, nose, and ears together. After laughing, the cultivator lowered his head, opened his bloody mouth, and roared like thunder, "Lu Hanhuan, I'm coming. You should wash your ass and hand over the Nebula Ridge. If you know what's good for you, I'll let you and your disciples leave. If you don't know what's good for you, then don't blame me for being ruthless. All of my children are starving. Roar. As the cultivator's voice fell, thousands of ferocious birds and beasts roared, and waves of murderous aura mixed with bloody light rushed towards the nebula ridge. Although the murderous aura couldn't break the protective array, it had imperceptibly entered the hearts of the Chan He sect disciples. Not only Nuo Yeching, but even Lu Qingyu's face was filled with fear. Goat horn Shiwu. Lu Hanhuan moved his body and flew to the protective array in the sky, facing the bow ahead. He said, "My Chan He sect doesn't have any deep hatred with your flying shadow sect. It's just a dispute over some crystals, and you've sent your entire sect to approach the nebula ridge, wanting to exterminate my Chan He sect. You still think of yourself as a sect of the Fengyan kingdom? Damn it." The cultivator named Goat Horn Shiwu cursed, "Your Chan He sect disciple injured my flying shadow sect disciple and didn't even apologize to my flying shadow sect. As the sect master of the flying shadow sect, how can I swallow this insult and not stand up for him? You. Lu Hanhuan was so angry that his body trembled. He raised his hand and pointed at Goat Horn Shiwu, saying, "You're really biting back. It's obvious that your flying shadow sect disciple bullied others and forced my Chan He sect disciple to make a deal. My Chan He sect disciple was forced to fight back." Humph. Before Lu Hanhuan could finish, Fan Di of the fallen immortal sect snorted coldly and said, "If you want to condemn someone, you can always find a pretext. Sect Master Lu is too slow. He wants to exterminate your Chan He sect, and you know his intentions. Why are you wasting time with him? Release the protective array and let us kill him." "Okay, I'll leave it to you." Lu Hanhuan bit his lips and bowed, saying, "The lives of tens of thousands of my Chan He sect disciples are in your hands." Banished Monarch laughed, "Sect Master Lu, don't worry. Not to mention that your Chan He sect found the array flag left behind by our ancestor for my fallen immortal sect. My fallen immortal sect can't just ignore the flying shadow sect's domineering attitude. If the flying shadow sect succeeds in front of us, how can my fallen immortal sect still be in charge of the Fengyan kingdom? Yes, the fallen immortal sect is really the backbone of my Fengyan kingdom. You are also the messengers of justice." Lu Hanhuan said, "There are so many cultivation sects and families in my Fengyan kingdom. If the fallen immortal sect didn't maintain order, I'm afraid it would have been chaotic long ago." Lu Hanhuan said some flattering words, and Fan Di was already a little impatient. He urged his body to rush to the front of the big array. If he didn't have scruples about breaking the big array, he was afraid that he would have already flown out to teach the arrogant Goat Horn Shiwu a lesson. "Sect Master Lu," Banished Monarch reminded him. He didn't know how many times he had heard Lu Hanhuan's flattery in his life. Fan Di was still impatient, but he was already numb. Lu Hanhuan didn't dare to be negligent. Although he muttered in his heart, he still raised his hand and grabbed. In the sky, among the petals that were still flashing with 8-colored brilliance, a ball of light fell with a spell. Lu Hanhuan held it in his hand. With a shake of the wind, it turned into a 1-foot array flag. Lu Hanhuan activated his Dharma power. Swoosh swoosh swoosh. He waved it continuously, and several strong winds fell into the protective array. Swoosh swoosh swoosh. In the clouds, more than 10 light circles of 1 foot in size fell, covering the disciples of the fallen immortal sect. "Everyone, please," Lu Hanhuan said respectfully. He waved the array flag again. The array flag turned into more than 10 streamers and fell into the light circles. The light circles brought the disciples of the fallen immortal sect out of Xingyin Ridge. Roar. Just as the disciples of the fallen immortal sect flew out, the python dragon under the goat horn Shihu's feet roared. The python dragon raised its head high and was ready to pounce on Lu Pingxi, who was closest to it. "Damned evil creature!" Lu Pingxi roared angrily and waved his hand. A jasper pearl the size of a wicker basket appeared out of thin air. As Lu Pingxi spat out a mouthful of true qi on it, roar. As the jasper pearl vibrated, a similar roar came from within the pearl. Along with this sound, a dark green flood dragon, whose body was smaller than the python dragon's, rushed out from the misty brilliance. Although its ferocious aura was 3 times more powerful than the python dragon's, it rushed out from the misty brilliance. As soon as the flood dragon appeared, a chill immediately appeared in the air nearby, and ice shards began to fall from the sky with a soa sound. Seeing how powerful the green python dragon was, the red python dragon shrunk its body slightly. Then, its eyes turned red. It hissed and was ready to pounce. The goat-horned Shihu was a little surprised. It hurriedly tapped the python dragon with its feet and stopped the python dragon's attack. It shouted, "You! Who are you? How dare you stop me from killing Lu Hanhuan?" Then, the goat-horned Shihu looked around again. Except for Lu Pingxi, the other disciples of the fallen celestial sect, such as Fan Di, also took out their magic treasures. Although they did not use their magic treasures, they stood around the banished king in picturesque disorder, forming a simple magic array. Although there were only a dozen of them and they had not released the pressure of nascent soul stage cultivators, the threatening momentum was gradually revealed like a sword being unsheathed. In the face of tens of thousands of disciples of the Flying Shadow sect and thousands of birds and beasts, they were not at a disadvantage at all. How dare you call yourself father in front of the disciples of the fallen celestial sect? You really deserve to die. The banished king smiled coldly. In his hand, a magic treasure like a jade rui scepter was released. A pillar of golden light soared into the sky and turned into a giant object in midair. What? You are disciples of the fallen celestial sect? The goat-horned Shihu was shocked. It looked at the disciples of the fallen celestial sect in disbelief and a strange expression appeared on its face. P.S. Fellow cultivators who like this book, please subscribe to it at Qidian, vote for it, vote for it, vote for it, donate it, and... Chapter 4867. Seeing Shiwu's strange expression, Fan Di said proudly, "Who dares to pretend to be a disciple of the fallen immortal sect in the Maple Cliff country? We were invited by sect leader Lu of the Chanhe sect to help us. Considering that the Flying Shadow sect is also a branch of the Maple Cliff country, it is not easy for you to survive in the current world. So, if you know what's good for you, quickly lead your disciples back and swear a blood oath not to offend the Chanhe sect. We will not lower ourselves to your level. Otherwise, don't blame us for being ruthless and killing your Flying Shadow sect in front of the Nebula Ridge." Although Fan Di's tone was threatening, what he said was true. The Flying Shadow sect and the Chanhe sect were equal in strength. There were 4 or 5 nascent soul cultivators in the sect. The reason why the Flying Shadow sect dared to provoke the Chanhe sect was because of the flying beasts in the sect. The dozens of nascent soul cultivators of the fallen immortal sect and the disciples of the Chanhe sect could definitely kill the Flying Shadow sect disciples brought by Shiwu. Sure enough, the goat-horned Shiwu was somewhat hesitant. A pair of flashing golden eyes blinked, as if it was thinking. However, after a moment, Shiwu raised his head and laughed. He raised his hand and said, "Which hall of the fallen immortal sect are you from? Does your hall master know that you are so arrogant outside? You are really looking for death." Fan Di was furious. As he rubbed his hands, a thick crystal light appeared. However, just as the crystal light was about to fall into the void, Fan Di hesitated. This was because when he activated his spiritual power and a large amount of spiritual energy entered his body, he felt that his lifespan was slipping away bit by bit, cough cough. At this moment, a coughing sound came from behind the Flying Shadow sect disciples. Then, a figure swayed in the sunlight and flew out. The coughing sound was not loud, but it was like thunder in the ears of Fan Di and the disciples of the fallen immortal sect. Fan Di and the other disciples of the fallen immortal sect were shocked. They knew that this was the helper that Shiwu had found. However, when they saw the appearance of the person who came, they could not help but be shocked. The newcomer was a middle-aged cultivator in his 40s. His face was like a full moon, and although he wasn't wearing any battle armor, the golden light flashing around his body condensed into runes. These runes flew with the cultivator's body, and as they flowed, they revealed the shape of spirit armor and covered the cultivator's entire body. Vice Hall Master Huang. Without waiting for the middle-aged cultivator to fly closer, Exiled Monarch and the others all exclaimed in a low voice. They looked at each other and did not dare to be negligent. Although they did not withdraw the magic treasures they had taken out, they all bowed and said, "Disciple greets Vice Hall Master Huang." Vice Hall Master Huang flew closer and glanced at Banished King and the others. He frowned and asked curiously, "Why are you here at Nebula Ridge? Have you reported this to Su Xian?" When Vice Hall Chief Huang said this, Zhejun did not suspect him at all. This was because although Vice Hall Chief Huang was the Vice Hall Chief of Jingshan Hall and did not know the Vice Hall Chief of the Kanxian Hall they were in, Su Xian was the deacon of the Kanxian Hall. She was in charge of the Kanxian Hall disciples entering and exiting the fallen immortal sect. Disciples have already reported to Deacon Su. Banished King didn't dare to hide anything and replied. "Hee, get up. It seems like you were invited by Lu Hanhuan to deal with the Flying Shadow sect." Vice Hall Chief Huang smiled slightly. "Today, we have arrived at the Dragon King Temple, yes. Banished King's face was also filled with awkwardness. After all, the person in front of him was an early-stage spirit-severing stage cultivator and a Vice Hall Chief of a hall. He was not someone his disciples could go against. Huang Su. Just as Vice Hall Chief Huang and Banished King were talking, Shihua with the goat horn said unhappily from afar, "I invited you here to exterminate the Chanhe sect, not to chat with your juniors. Now that Nebula Ridge is right in front of you, why aren't you attacking?" Shihua with the goat horn's words were a little rude, and Huang Su's eyes were filled with displeasure. Banished King's eyes turned slightly as if he was thinking about something. Then, he looked at the few people beside him. These people exchanged glances with each other and Banished King hurriedly transmitted his voice, "Vice Hall Chief Huang, disciples, and the others came to Nebula Ridge because of the great merit of the fallen immortal sect's spiritual master Huang Qiong. Since we have met Vice Hall Chief Huang today, we are willing to share this merit with you." "Ah. Spiritual Master Huang Qiong?" When Huang Su heard this, he was shocked and ecstatic. How could he not know what Banished King was talking about? Without any hesitation, Huang Su turned his head and said indifferently, "Shihua with the goat horn, I remember that we had an agreement before coming here. I can help you fend off the elders of the Chanhe sect that you can't fend off. I can also help you fend off the experts of the Chanhe sect. Am I right?" Shihua with the goat horn nodded and said, "That's right. It's good that you admit it." Huang Su raised his hand and pointed at Banished King and the others. "Although these are my juniors, they are experts that your Flying Shadow sect cannot fend off. If I don't let them attack your Flying Shadow sect disciples, won't that be fulfilling the agreement I made with you?" Ha! How could Shihua with the goat horn not understand Huang Su's plan? He laughed and said, That's right. As long as these fallen immortal sect disciples don't attack, I will definitely be able to exterminate the Chanhe sect disciples in Nebula Ridge. Sigh, we are all from the Fengyan sect. Why are you so anxious to kill each other? Huang Su sighed and said, "I know that you have your eyes on Nebula Ridge. As long as Lu Hanhuan agrees to give Nebula Ridge to your Chanhe sect, why do you have to be so ruthless?" "Of course I'm willing. I just don't know if Lu Hanhuan is willing." Shihua with the goat horn arrogantly called himself lousy in front of Huang Su. Seeing that Huang Su was not angry, Banished King and the other fallen immortal sect disciples lowered their heads slightly. Everyone knew in their hearts that Huang Su had gained a lot from this trip. "That's good." Huang Su nodded slightly. He looked at Banished King and the others and said, "Go and persuade Lu Hanhuan." "Yes, I will do as you say." Of course, Banished King did not dare to be negligent. He hurriedly flew to the mountain-protecting formation of Chanhe sect and raised his hand to salute. "Sect leader Lu, I don't want to say anything more. You've seen everything. The life and death of Chan He sect are only in your hands. As for where to go, I think you must have made a decision. It was definitely out of Lu Hanhuan's expectations that the fallen immortal sect disciples would meet here. He did not expect that Flying Shadow sect's Shihua with the goat horn would actually bring a deputy hall master of fallen immortal sect over. And the fallen immortal sect disciples that he had high hopes for had to salute this deputy hall master respectfully. Lu Hanhuan's face was already pale. Daoist friend banished. Gao Cheng's face was very gloomy. He hurriedly flew forward and said loudly, "Do you think this is appropriate?" When my sect leader nodded, the ancestral property of Chan He sect was given to Flying Shadow sect. When my sect leader shook his head, Chan He sect and my disciples turned into ashes. What's the difference between this and not inviting you over? I traveled thousands of miles to fallen immortal sect and used the array flag of the heavenly cycle demon subduing star formation to invite you over. Is this an invitation for nothing? Could it be that your previous promise, and so on, were all perfunctory? You are representing Senior Xian Xiaozi of fallen immortal sect. However, Gao Cheng suddenly thought of something. His face turned pale and he looked at Banished King with fire in his eyes. He shouted, I understand. Banished King, you didn't even. Humph. Before Gao Cheng could finish his words, Fan Difei flew over and snorted, Gao Cheng. Let me ask you, what did we promise you? Didn't you say that Chan He sect was in trouble and that Flying Shadow sect might attack Chan He sect? Did Chan He sect invite us over to help Chan He sect defend against the enemy? If we couldn't come over, Deputy Hall Master Huang could destroy Chan He sect alone. Why would Flying Shadow sect need to attack? If we didn't come over, would Flying Shadow sect give Chan He sect a way out? We came over and stopped Deputy Hall Master Huang from attacking. We also found a way out for Chan He sect. Isn't this enough to repay us? Moreover, the array flag that you gave to the fallen immortal sect belongs to the fallen immortal sect. Don't tell me that you've taken something that belongs to the fallen immortal sect, and you still don't want to return it? Lu Pingxi questioned immediately. Gao Cheng raised his hand and pointed at Lu Pingxi. He didn't know what to say. He had given the array flag of the heavenly cycle demon subduing star formation to Fan Difei and the rest for nothing. In the end, he ended up like this. He didn't expect fallen immortal sect's disciples to be so shameless. Banished King seemed to be unable to bear it. He persuaded, sect leader Lu, where there is life, there is hope. Although Chan He sect abandoned the mountain gate today, your disciples are still here, aren't they? We are grateful that you returned the array flag to fallen immortal sect. However, with our ability, we can only protect your disciples and leave. If you want to do more, it is beyond our ability. I have said all that I can say. As for where to go, it is still up to sect leader Lu to decide. Zhijun's words did sound reasonable. If they had not appeared, the Chan He sect would have been annihilated. However, the current choice was definitely not the choice that Lu Hanhuan wanted to make. He had given away the array flag and invited fallen immortal sect's disciples over. Not only did he want to be on good terms with fallen immortal sect, but he also wanted to make use of fallen immortal sect's power to drive Flying Shadow sect away. He didn't want to be driven away by Flying Shadow sect. There is no need to consider. Lu Hanhuan said bitterly. He cupped his hands and said, is Chan He sect still Chan He sect without Star Cloud Ridge? Today, Flying Shadow sect let Chan He sect go. Tomorrow, they will exterminate us. If that's the case, Chan He sect might as well fight with Flying Shadow sect in front of Star Cloud Ridge. I don't believe that Chan He sect can't defeat Flying Shadow sect. That's right. Yu Zhuohong and Pang Lushing also flew over and sneered, we would rather die in battle than hand over the foundation of our ancestors to others. Alas, sect leader Lu. Banished King wanted to say something, but Fan Di beside him was already impatient. He pulled Banished King and said, Senior brother Banished, Chan He sect has already made a choice. This has nothing to do with us. P.S. Fellow cultivators who like this book, please subscribe to it at Chidian, vote for it, vote for it, vote for it, donate it, and Chapter 4868. Lu Hanhuan looked at Exiled King's hesitation and said, Fellow cultivator Exiled King, the heavenly cycle demon subduing star formation is in the Shi mountain range to the west of Xingyin Ridge. You can find it if you go there. I have to lead my disciples to fight the enemy, so I can't accompany you. Please forgive me. Yu Zhuohong also cupped his hands proudly and said, Sect leader is right. If fellow cultivator Exiled King didn't come, our Chanhe sect wouldn't have been able to escape this calamity. If fellow cultivator Exiled King comes, our biggest threat will be removed and we will have a fair chance to compete with the Flying Shadow sect. The cost of the array flag is also worth it. Lu Hanhuan's mockery and Yu Zhuohong's arrogance caused the exiled monarch to feel ashamed. His face burned. He naturally knew why he and the others had come here, and what Lu Hanhuan and the others hoped for. Unfortunately, the ways of the world made fools of men. He had to face the seniors of his own sect. He had the will, but there was nothing he could do. Fan Di and the others had already flown to Huang Su's side. The group of fallen immortal sect disciples were waiting for him to return. Exiled King gritted his teeth and said, Forget it. Sect leader Lu, please wait for a moment. I will go and beg Vice Hall leader Huang. Unfortunately, before he could fly 100 feet away, Shi Wu, who was standing on top of the red python, was already impatient. He opened his mouth and ordered, Everyone, damn it. Banished Lord's expression changed as he cursed under his breath. He wanted to teleport to Huang Su's side, but at this moment, a calm voice rang out. Fortunately, there is still one disciple who has not completely wiped out his conscience. This has given this old man a little more confidence in the so-called great sects. If every disciple of the fallen immortal sect is so confusing, inverting black and white and speaking against their conscience, I really want to keep all of you here and let you know what conscience is. This voice wasn't loud, but it was abnormally clear. The tens of thousands of cultivators in Xingyin Ridge heard it clearly. Huang Su's expression was even worse. His eyes emitted a cold light as he looked at a place in Xingyin Ridge. At this moment, the sun was already rising. The orange sunlight shone on Xingyin Ridge. Xiaohua walked up to the sky with his hands behind his back. On that seemingly ordinary face, there was a sneer. This sneer was especially glaring under the sunlight. Senior. Seeing Xiaohua fly out, Lu Hanhuan was shocked and hurriedly asked, Why did you come out? You. It's fine. Xiaohua didn't look at Lu Hanhuan, but his gaze fell on Huang Su as he said, If this old man didn't come out, how could I see the ugly faces of the so-called famous sect's disciples? Huang Su snorted and raised his voice, Are you talking about this old man? Huang Su. Without waiting for Xiaohua to speak, Shi Wu immediately shouted, You can't leave. Since the Chan sect has another helper, you have to help me kill this helper. Shut up. Huang Su's words were like spring thunder as he berated Shi Wu. Is it up to you to decide whether this old man wants to leave or not? Sect Master Lu. Xiaohua walked to the front of the array and said to Lu Hanhuan, Open the array and let this old man out. No. Lu Hanhuan hurriedly waved his hand and said, Senior, how can you go out now? Whether this old man can go out or not, it's not up to you to decide. Xiaohua smiled slightly and walked towards the 8-colored halo and fog. However, when he walked to the array, his body rippled with the same 8-colored brilliance. Without stopping, he had already passed through the mountain-protecting array of Chanhe sect. Lu Hanhuan was a little stunned and was surprised in his heart, could it be? Senior Zhang didn't. Seeing Xiaohua fly out from Xingyin Ridge, Huang Su's divine sense immediately swept over. When his divine sense fell on Xiaohua, Huang Su was surprised again. Because there was no fluctuation of magic power around Xiaohua's body, it was like a mortal who had never cultivated. Moreover, under the fallen immortal sect's secret technique, he couldn't see Xiao Hua's realm. Xiao Hua didn't even have the pressure and bearing of a high-level cultivator. Who are you? How dare you slander my fallen immortal sect's reputation here? Huang Su calmed down and asked. Xiao Hua looked at Huang Su and didn't answer directly. Instead, he asked back, "It doesn't matter who this old man is. What's important is, you are the disciples of the fallen immortal sect, the backbone of the cultivators of the Fengyan kingdom. If you don't protect the stability of the Fengyan kingdom and don't stop the unnecessary killing between the two sects, who can do it?" Ha! Huang Su sneered and said, "Fellow Daoist, aren't you afraid of biting your tongue? You actually put such a big label on this old man. In the Fengyan kingdom, what does the killing between two sects count for? What does the destruction of one sect count for?" In the distance, Shi Hua was the same as Huang Su. He scanned Xiao Hua with his divine sense and didn't see anything special about Xiao Hua. He couldn't help but sneer. He lifted his foot and pointed at the python dragon below him. He said loudly, "Everyone, listen to my command, kill." Roar. The crimson python let out a furious roar, and its body rapidly expanded. Tens of thousands of heaven and earth spirit chi swept up like a gust of wind and rushed into its body. A layer of crimson light appeared on the python dragon's body. Following Shi Wu's order, the python dragon brought tens of thousands of birds and beasts to pounce on the Chanhe sect's mountain protecting array. Huang Su didn't see Shi Hua listen to his command and rashly launch an attack order. He frowned slightly, but he didn't stop it. Instead, he looked at Xiao Hua. He wanted to see how Xiao Hua would attack. A trace of disdain appeared on Xiao Hua's face. Then, he didn't move, nor did he activate his magic power. Instead, he opened his mouth and a roar that was several times more ferocious than a dragon's roar came out of his mouth. Roar, as soon as this roar came out, it was like the cry of thousands of phoenixes and the roar of thousands of dragons. A kind of royal aura that penetrated the souls of thousands of beasts immediately poured out in all directions like the Milky Way. With the outpouring of the aura, the scenery within 1,000 miles changed greatly. High up in the sky, the wind blew and the clouds swayed. Red clouds covered the sky, and the sunlight that was shining down was instantly blocked. The spiritual chi of heaven and earth that was previously gushing towards this place had actually become chaotic and disorderly. Waves of strange hissing sounds rang out from all over the sky. The most terrifying thing was that wherever the whistling sound passed, the previously incomparably ferocious birds and beasts all trembled and fell from the sky. Fear appeared in their eyes, and they tried their best to maintain their bodies. As for the red python under Shi Hua's feet, its body twitched and shrank rapidly. It was like a small snake coiled in one place and didn't dare to move. Shi Hua, whose face was inlaid with dragon scales, also held its head with both hands. It seemed to be in extreme pain and rolled in the sky. The dragon scales on its face also emitted a blood-red dim light. After the birds and beasts, a large number of spirit-swallowing bugs fell like debris in the fierce wind. They fell on the heads and bodies of the stunned disciples of the Flying Shadow sect. Although there were many disciples of the Flying Shadow sect, they had already been disordered by Xiao Hua's roar. The disciples who rode the birds and beasts seemed to be extremely afraid of Xiao Hua's roar. Their eyes were a little dazed and their bodies fell with the birds and beasts. Huang Su and other disciples of the fallen immortal sect were similar to those disciples of the Flying Shadow sect who had never ridden a beast. They only felt that Xiao Hua's roar was like a sharp knife piercing their ears, but they didn't suffer any special injuries. However, when Huang Su saw thousands of birds and beasts of the Flying Shadow sect collapse under Xiao Hua's roar, he was shocked again. He was entrusted by Shi Hua, so he naturally not only knew about the Flying Shadow sect, but also investigated the Chanhe sect. From various signs, it was clear that the Chanhe sect was a small sect with no foundation and no backing. The only thing they could do was to desperately select suitable disciples and transfer suitable disciples and their cultivation methods out of the Nebula Ridge. In the entire Nebula Ridge, there was no practitioner who could be his enemy. How could such an unfathomable practitioner appear in the Nebula Ridge in just dozens of days? Moreover, Huang Su knew that the reason why he agreed to Shihua's request was that he valued the rise of the Flying Shadow sect, which was based on raising demonic beasts, after the change of the spiritual qi of heaven and earth. The Flying Shadow sect, which was not particularly outstanding before, had frequently annexed other sects with the help of demonic beasts in the past 100 years. Its strength had been several times stronger than before. Otherwise, Shihua wouldn't dare to force the Chan-He sect like this. Now, Huang Su could clearly see that the mysterious cultivator in front of him didn't use any Taoist magic, nor did he use any secret technique. With just his howl, he was able to wipe out the Flying Shadow sect, which was in the limelight. Such means were far beyond his reach. Huang Su's expression was shocked and a little uncertain. He was thinking about how to deal with it. At this moment, Ji Jun's voice fell into his ears. Deputy Hall Master Huang, it's not too late to stop now. Our fallen immortal sect is originally an outsider, why should we interfere too deeply? That's right. Huang Su's heart moved and he already had a plan. He turned his head and nodded at Ji Jun and the others. With a wave of his sleeve, his body floated 1,000 feet away. Ji Jun and the others didn't dare to hesitate. They flew with Huang Su and distanced themselves from the Flying Shadow sect and the Chan-He sect. The disciples of the fallen immortal sect had made a decision. Lu Hanhuan, who was in the Nebula Ridge, also woke up from his shock. He raised his hand and ordered without hesitation, disciples of the Chan-He sect, kill, kill. Pang Lusheng and Gao Qing shouted loudly. They each waved their magic treasures and rushed out of the big formation, pouncing towards Shihua. The other disciples guarding the big formation also activated their magic treasures. They either left the big formation to attack or borrowed the power of the big formation to pounce on the Flying Shadow sect disciples who weren't injured by Xiao Hua. As for Lu Hanhuan, he nodded slightly at Yu Zhuahong. The two of them respectfully flew out of the big formation and landed beside Xiao Hua. Xiao Hua's figure was still tall and thin, but in the eyes of the two, he was already incomparably tall. They knew that with their strength, they wouldn't be able to measure the magical powers of this practitioner in front of them. P.S. Fellow Taoists who like this book, please subscribe to it at Qidian, vote for it, vote for it, vote for it, give it as a reward, and Chapter 4869. Looking at the disciples of Chan-He sect and the disciples of Flying Shadow sect fighting back in panic, Xiao Hua, as the instigator, had an indescribable loneliness on his face. Previously, on the 3 continents, the disciples of Tao's sect were struggling to survive under the pressure of the Buddhist sect, Confucian cultivators and demon clan. Now, on the 3 continents, the Buddhist sect, Confucian cultivators and demon clan were fighting against the world-exterminating ephemera for survival. On the Yi-Lin continent, the 2 Tao sects of Chu-Pu Immortal Alliance were killing each other. Regardless of the Flying Shadow sect's coercion or the Chan-He sect's counterattack, Xiao Hua felt that there was something strange. Forget it. Xiao Hua was bored and waved his hand, capture the sect leader of Flying Shadow sect. You can do whatever you want with him. As for the other disciples, don't hurt them too much. With that, Xiao Hua turned and walked towards Xingyin Ridge. Lu Hanhuan was stunned and did not dare to delay. He hurriedly sent a message to Yu Zhuahong. Yu Zhuahong was still unconvinced and wanted to fly over to say something to Xiao Hua. At this moment, a light flashed in the air and Huang Su's figure flew over from afar and landed beside Xiao Hua. Junior Huang Su greets Senior. Huang Su's figure was not stable and he immediately bowed. Where was the arrogant look from before? Oh. Xiao Hua stood still and looked up and down at Huang Su. He said coldly, "What else do you want? Could it be, you really want to fulfill your promise with Flying Shadow sect?" Huang Su smiled and said, "With Senior here, how would Junior dare to make a move? Junior just wanted to see Senior and ask for Senior's name." Hee hee. Xiao Hua smiled and said, Huang Su, if you want to fight with me because of your promise, then I will look at you differently. Then this old man will have a whole new level of respect for you. There's no harm in telling you my name. Unfortunately, you are not as good as that disciple called Banished Monarch. You did not even keep the most basic integrity of a famous sect. What qualifications do you have to know my name? You. Huang Su bit his lips and was a little angry. He did not think that Xiao Hua was stronger than him. After all, he had reached the early stage of spirit-severing stage. He put himself in the position of a junior disciple because he did not want to interfere with the grudge between Flying Shadow sect and Chanhe sect and let Xiao Hua control the situation. But Xiao Hua's words were like a knife, mercilessly cutting through the hypocrisy on his face bit by bit, making him truly embarrassed. Looking at the anger in Huang Su's eyes, Xiao Hua shouted, What? Do you want to fight with me now? If you take action now, you won't be fulfilling your promise to the Flying Shadow sect. Instead, you'll be humiliated into anger. Not only will you fail to impress this old man, you will only infuriate this old man and kill you. Then, Huang Su narrowed his eyes and said, Let's give it a try. Huang Su did not believe that there was a void refinement realm cultivator in Fengyan country that he did not know. Xiao Hua, Xiao Hua, Xiao Hua, Xiao Hua, Xiao Qin, sect, sect Qin, sect, sect. If there is no accident, you will break through in a few months. Instead of fighting with this old man here and wasting your lifespan for nothing, it is better to think about what will happen after the middle stage of spirit-severing stage. It seems that your lifespan will not be long. Ah! Huang Su was shocked. He looked at Xiao Hua in disbelief as if he had seen a ghost. Huang Su was able to become the Vice Hall Master of Jingshan Hall. Naturally, he was outstanding. After he came to his senses, he knelt down and kowtowed without hesitation. Senior, please save me, Huang Su knelt down. Not only were Lu Hanhuan and Yu Zhuohong surprised, but also Fei Jun, Fan Di, and the others from the Fallen Immortal sect. They were all confused. Was the Hall Master of the Fallen Immortal sect the kind of person who could kneel down casually? What are you doing? Xiao Hua sneered. This is a change in spiritual energy. It is the law of heaven and earth. How can I help you? Instead of kneeling down to me, why don't you take the Heavenly Cycle Demon Subduing Star Formation's array flag and collect the remains left behind by Spiritual Master Huang Qiong in the formation? Then, quickly return to the Fallen Immortal sect and ask for credit from your sect master. That way, the Fallen Immortal sect can help you extend your lifespan. Senior, it's all my fault. Huang Su did not dare to raise his head. He only knelt in the air and confessed. I shouldn't have listened to the goat horn Shiwu's bewitchment and come to Xingyin Ridge to offend you. I don't dare to ask for anything else. I only hope that you can forgive me. Xiao Hua had seen thick-skinned people before, but he had not seen many people as thick-skinned as Huang Su. Of course, he knew what Huang Su was asking for, but he did not say it. Instead, he nodded and said, Don't worry. Why would I lower myself to the same level as a junior? You can go now. I was the one who discovered the Heavenly Cycle Demon Subduing Star Formation. Because I have some karma with the Chanhe sect, I gave the array flag to them. Everything in the array. I didn't touch it. The Chanhe sect also didn't touch it. If you have a conscience, report the matter of the Chanhe sect to your sect master in full detail. Don't forget the Chanhe sect when you reward them. It's not bad that you can do this. Huang Su could not see the depth of Xiao Hua's strength, but when he heard Xiao Hua's words, he was sweating profusely again. These words were not ordinary, and his tone was also not ordinary arrogant. If the person in front of him was not bluffing, then the strength of the person in front of him was definitely not what he could imagine. But when he thought of Xiao Hua's howl just now, Huang Su threw the word, bluffing, to the back of his mind. But if he really wanted to rely on Xiao Hua's strength to become the sect master of the Fallen Immortal sect, he felt that it was not very possible. So he thought for a moment, stood up respectfully and said, Junior will follow Senior's orders and do what Senior instructed. As for Senior's matter, there's no need to hide, you can report as much as you want. Xiaohua did not care. He waved his hand and said, you all go quickly, don't make any changes. Yes, Junior understands. Huang Su nodded and replied, the relic of Huang Qiongzhenren's tribulation is something that the fallen immortal sect has been looking for hundreds of years. Junior boldly invites Senior to come to the fallen immortal sect when you are free, so that the fallen immortal sect can have the opportunity to thank Senior for his generous gift. As he spoke, Huang Su took out a fist-sized item that looked like a seal and handed it over respectfully. He said, this is the token of the fallen immortal sect. I only have this with me. Senior, please accept it. When Senior arrives at the Sunset Mountain, my sect master will definitely welcome you personally. Xiaohua told Huang Su about the heavenly cycle demon subduing star array because he did not want the Chanhe sect to get into any trouble. He did not have any plans to go to the fallen immortal sect. He originally wanted to refuse, but when he heard Huang Su say that the token was not ordinary, he thought for a moment and waved his hand to accept the token. The token was neither gold nor stone. It was pale yellow in color, and the cloud shadow of a mountain range appeared from the token. When one looked at it, the cloud shadow swayed, and the mountain range seemed to be real. Seeing that the token was not ordinary, Xiaohua knew that Huang Su was not lying. He nodded and said, I'll accept the token, but I'm not sure when I can go. When Huang Su saw this, he was ecstatic and hurriedly said, Senior, you can go whenever you want. I'm already grateful that Senior can accept my token today. I was a little reckless before. Now that Senior has accepted the token, I'm relieved. You can go and wait. Seeing that the banished king and the others were about to come over to greet him, Xiaohua waved his hand and ignored Huang Su. He walked back to the Lap's palace. Huang Su did not dare to move. When Xiaohua's figure landed on the nebula ridge, he then cupped his hands and said to Lu Hanhuan, Sect Master Lu, I've offended you today. I'll definitely report today's matter and the matter of the heavenly cycle demon subduing star array to my sect master. Lu Hanhuan was naturally flattered and hurriedly returned the greeting, I'll have to trouble Vice Hall Master Huang. Huang Su still wanted to ask about Xiaohua's origin, but he was afraid of making Xiaohua unhappy. He rolled his eyes and reminded, Sect Master Lu, Flying Shadow Sect has the intention to force Chanhe Sect. Goat Horn Shiwu and several elders of Flying Shadow Sect must be killed. The other disciples can listen to Senior's orders and be lenient. Yes, I know. Lu Hanhuan smiled and said, Senior Zhang is very kind and doesn't seem to like killing. I'll stop before going too far. Hee, don't worry. Huang Su smiled slightly, with Senior Zhang in the Nebula Ridge, I'll report the matter of Chanhe Sect to my sect master. In the future, in Fengyan country, and even in Chu Pu Immortal Union, who would dare to have ideas about Chanhe Sect? I'll have to trouble Vice Hall Master Huang. Lu Hanhuan hurriedly said, I'm also very grateful to Vice Hall Master Huang. Well said, well said. Huang Su saw that the Chanhe Sect disciples had taken control of the situation and waved his hand, I don't dare to delay. I'll lead the disciples to Shi Mountain Range now. Elder Yu. Lu Hanhuan hurriedly ordered Yu Zhuohong, Vice Hall Master Huang is not familiar with the terrain here. Quickly take Zhang Ji and the other disciples and lead Vice Hall Master Huang over. Yes, Sect Master. Yu Zhuohong replied and released his divine perception to search for Zhang Ji. Huang Su smiled and said, Thank you, Sect Master Lu. I'll take my leave. Watching Huang Su and the others fly to Shi Mountain Range under the lead of Yu Zhuohong and Zhang Ji, Lu Hanhuan's mouth revealed a trace of a cold smile. Putting aside the fact that Lu Hanhuan had led the disciples of the Chan sect to clean up the mess, Huang Su had brought Ji Jun and the others to fly behind Yu Zhuohong. Ji Jun and the others had long been surprised. They all transmitted their voices to inquire about the news. How would Huang Su know too much? He only briefly explained the matter. Looking at Yu Zhuohong in front of him, he said, "Elder Yu, I have something to ask. I wonder if it's okay?" How could Yu Zhuohong not know what he wanted to ask? He turned around and smiled. "Vice Hall Master Huang, do you want to ask about Senior Zhang?" That's right, that's right." Vice Hall Master Huang smiled and said, "Although our Tsupu Immortal Alliance is big, Fengyan Kingdom is small. Although I'm a Vice Hall Master of the Fallen Immortal Sect, I've seen many seniors of the Immortal Alliance. However, I'm unfamiliar with this Senior Zhang. I don't even know his name, so please enlighten me, Elder Yuan." Of course, if Senior Zhang has any special instructions, you don't have to say it in detail. P.S. Fellow Taoists who like this book, please subscribe to it at Qidian, vote for it, vote for it, vote for it, give it as a reward, and thank you for all forms of support. He almost forgot himself as he took it and hurriedly probed it with his divine sense. Hiss. After Huang Su saw it, he couldn't help but suck in a breath of cold air. He looked up at the exiled monarch and asked, "Where is the exiled monarch?" "I'm here." The exiled monarch looked serious and hurriedly bowed, saying, "I don't know what Deputy Hall Master Huang wants me to do." "You take 10 disciples and return to the sect quickly." Huang Su handed the jade slip to the exiled monarch and said, "This jade slip is really too important to our fallen immortal sect. Don't worry, this contribution is far greater than the heavenly cycle demon subduing star array. As long as you bring the method of spiritual root selection back to the sect, the Deputy Hall Master of Kanxian Hall will be yours in the future." The exiled monarch was shocked and hurriedly waved his hand, saying, "Deputy Hall Master Huang, this matter is too important, or let the Hall Master bring it back personally." "You silly child." Huang Su looked at the disciples in front of him and said with a smile, "Senior Zhang has just said that I will enter the intermediate stage of spirit severing stage in a few decades. With my ability, I'm afraid I won't have the chance to enter the advanced stage of spirit severing stage again. You are still young. If I don't give this opportunity to you, who else can I give it to? Besides, don't forget that you are the helpers invited by the Chanhe sect, not me." "Yes, I understand." The exiled monarch took the jade slip. Before he could keep it in his storage ring, Huang Su thought of something again and said, "Don't worry, let me make a copy of this thing first. Deputy Hall Master Huang, I have more here." Yu Zhuohong smiled and took out a few more jade slips and handed them to Huang Su. Huang Su smiled bitterly. This secret technique was too precious, so he lost his composure a little. But he forgot that Xiao Hua's original intention was to make this secret technique public. After taking the jade slip and keeping it carefully, Huang Su ordered the exiled monarch, "Don't stop for a moment, return to the fallen immortal sect immediately. This secret technique has been spread out, the earlier it is used, the earlier the fallen immortal sect will benefit. By the way, remember, you must inform the sect master. If the sect master is free, please come to Xingyun Ridge personally. Since Senior Zhang has the secret technique of spiritual root selection, he must also have the secret technique of spiritual root cultivation. He has just come out of seclusion and hasn't made the secret technique public yet. Our fallen immortal sect can beat him to it. It will be good for the future development of the sect and even the sect master's own cultivation." Seeing that Huang Su was so serious about this matter, Yu Zhuohong's expression changed. He understood that the so-called life and death alliance between two sects with similar strength could naturally be regarded as a real life and death alliance. If the fallen immortal sect and the Chanhe sect talked about a life and death alliance, it would be a joke. Rather than a life and death alliance, it would be more like being annexed. But even so, being a disciple of the fallen immortal sect might not be worse than being a disciple of the Chanhe sect, right? Xiaohua naturally didn't know that the secret technique of selecting disciples had caused so many changes. He walked down from the sky and returned to the elapsed time hall. He waved his hand and took out the remaining jade slips and roughly looked through them. Similar to what Lu Hanhuan said, most of the records in the Chanhe sect were about the development of the Nebula Ridge and some things about the Fengyan Kingdom. The rest were about the cultivation methods and other things that the Chanhe sect had collected over the years. Xiao Hua was quite interested in the development of the Chanhe sect at first, but as he read, he became depressed. The Chanhe sect was just a small sect. No matter how many things it recorded, it would not be enough for a human Mahayana realm cultivator. Not only did Xiao Hua need to understand the Fengyan Kingdom, but he also needed to understand the Tsipu Immortal Alliance, the Tao Alliance, and even the Heaven Alliance. It was impossible for Xiao Hua to see these things in the Chanhe sect. Alas, maybe it's time to leave. Xiao Hua withdrew his divine thought and put the last jade slip back into the corona. He pinched his chin and sighed slightly. Although I haven't recovered my divine sense, I can't waste my time on the Nebula Ridge. Now that I've eliminated the threat of the Flying Shadow sect for the Chanhe sect, I've returned the favor to the Chanhe sect. I'd better move first and use the teleportation formation to go to the Wuming Mountain Range. Even if I reach the border between the Tao Alliance and the Heaven Alliance, my divine sense is not enough to enter the Heaven Alliance. It's better than waiting here. Since he had made up his mind, Xiao Hua turned and walked out of the elapsed time hall. At this time, Lu Hanhuan was not waiting outside the hall. Only 2 Foundation establishment disciples were standing there respectfully. Seeing Xiao Hua come out, the 2 disciples hurriedly greeted him and said respectfully, "Senior, do you have any instructions?" "Well, please ask sect leader Lu to come here. I have something to ask him." Xiao Hua replied with a smile. The news that Xiao Hua killed the Flying Shadow sect with a long roar had been spread wildly among the disciples of the Chanhe sect. The 2 disciples did not personally experience it because they were guarding the elapsed time hall. However, after hearing about Xiao Hua's deeds, they had long regarded Xiao Hua as a godlike existence. Now, they did not dare to neglect him. The 2 disciples exchanged glances and one of them hurriedly replied, "Senior, please wait a moment. I'll send a message to our sect leader." After that, the disciple waved his hand and activated a yellow talisman. The yellow talisman gave birth to a flame in mid-air and turned into a fist-sized pigeon that flapped its wings and flew away. P.S. Fellow cultivators who like this book, please subscribe to it at the Chidian point, vote for it, vote for it, vote for it, give it as a reward, and Chapter 4871. Oh, Anne. Xiao Hua thought of something and said embarrassedly, "Please find Nuo Yeching." "Yes, senior." The other disciple smiled and said, "However, I don't have junior brother Nuo's communication talisman. I have to go out and send a message. Please wait for a moment." "Don't worry, quickly go." Xiao Hua's amiability was beyond the expectations of the 2 disciples. Sure enough, not long after, Lu Hanhuan flew over with a smile on his face, and when he saw Xiao Hua standing outside the hall, he hurriedly stepped forward and said, "Senior, if you have any errands, feel free to ask your disciples to send a message to me. You can just wait in the hall, why wait here?" Seeing Lu Hanhuan in high spirits, Xiao Hua smiled and said, "Has the Flying Shadow sect been dealt with?" "I was just about to report this to Senior." Lu Hanhuan said respectfully, "Senior, please take a seat at the door. I will tell you everything." Okay. Xiao Hua didn't know Lu Hanhuan too well. He thought for a moment and nodded, "This old man will listen to how you deal with the Flying Shadow sect." Lu Hanhuan respectfully invited Xiao Hua to take a seat at the head of the table. He stood below and carefully reported. He didn't dare to hide any details. Xiao Hua narrowed his eyes and listened carefully. He didn't say anything to interrupt. After Lu Hanhuan finished speaking, he looked at Xiao Hua nervously. He didn't know if what he did was right. Lu Hanhuan's actions were reasonable. After Xiao Hua returned to Xingyan Ridge, Lu Hanhuan led the disciples of the Chanhe sect to capture the injured disciples of the Flying Shadow sect, including the sect master Shihua. As for the disciples who escaped, Lu Hanhuan didn't chase after them. Instead, after cleaning up the mess, he sent Gao Qing to lead the disciples to attack the Flying Shadow sect. This time, young Jiao Shiwu brought all the disciples of the Flying Shadow sect out. She thought that she had full confidence in winning. Other than an elder, there were no other disciples at the mountain gate of the Flying Shadow sect. If nothing went wrong, Gao Qing should be able to win without a fight and bring the Flying Shadow sect into the sphere of influence of the Chanhe sect. The reason why Lu Hanhuan felt uneasy was because he had listened to Huang Su's suggestion. After capturing Goathorn Shihua and the other elders of the Flying Shadow sect, he had crippled their cultivation to prevent future troubles. Although he did not take their lives, he was afraid that Xiao Hua would be unhappy. Who knew that after Xiao Hua heard this, he asked with interest, "In that case, are you planning to expand the Chanhe sect?" "Yes." After Lu Hanhuan felt relieved, he immediately calmed down and became bolder. He nodded and said, "Previously, I was afraid of the fallen immortal sect. I was also afraid that the other sects would notice the Chanhe sect. I was hesitant. But now that I've seen the fallen celestial sect, I think I can do a better job than the disciples of these reputable sects." "Oh? What are you going to do?" Xiao Hua raised his eyebrows and asked curiously. "I don't have any plans for the time being. After all, I didn't think too much about it before. Even now, I don't dare to speak nonsense in front of Senior." Lu Hanhuan smiled and said, "I only want to take down the Flying Shadow sect and support the elder of the Flying Shadow sect to be the sect master. Then, I want to invite Elder Gao Qing to be the deputy sect master of the Flying Shadow sect." Seeing that Lu Hanhuan was getting more and more excited as he spoke, Xiao Hua laughed secretly. Lu Hanhuan's thinking was too simple. He was lacking in many areas. This was not only related to the Chanhe sect's seclusion, but also to Lu Hanhuan's character. Xiao Hua couldn't say much about this. After Lu Hanhuan finished speaking, Xiao Hua said, "Are you confident that you can do better than the disciples of the fallen immortal sect?" "Of course." Lu Hanhuan nodded resolutely and said, "I don't dare to say anything else. Just based on the actions of the disciples of the fallen immortal sect, I will definitely do better than them. I will definitely keep my promise, even if the other party is an elder of my sect." "Yes." Xiao Hua smiled and said, "I believe you can do it. But, I want to tell you a story." Lu Hanhuan didn't understand, but he still said respectfully, "Senior, please tell me. I am all ears. When I was training in the past, I once went to a secular country. There were many corrupt officials in this country who lived a corrupt life of plundering the wealth of the people. Among the exploited commoners, there was a very insightful scholar. He saw that the commoners were living a difficult life, so he rose up and led the commoners to fight against those corrupt officials. He claimed that he wanted to overthrow these corrupt officials and divide the land equally between the rich and the poor. Because the commoners were oppressed by the corrupt officials and had no way to live, many commoners joined this scholar. This scholar and his subordinates were invincible. In the end, all the corrupt officials in this country were killed by this scholar and his subordinates." Xiao Hua opened his mouth and said, "And when this scholar and those commoners who followed him became officials and grasped power, in the beginning, they were still very honest and remembered the promise they made before they rose up. But in the end, they began to exploit other commoners, even more so than the corrupt officials from before." Xiao Hua's story was very short. In fact, it couldn't be considered a story. Lu Hanhuan listened and frowned. Although he didn't really understand what corrupt officials and what country, he already understood the meaning of Xiao Hua's story. He carefully said, "Senior, could it be that you think I can't do as well as a disciple of the fallen immortal sect?" Xiao Hua smiled and said, "It's not that I don't believe you. It's just that I think it's too difficult. From the perspective of a bystander, I always feel that the person involved is too shallow. It's really damaging the reputation of the famous sects. But if you really let me do it, sometimes I can't even do as well as the person involved. I also don't dare to ask you for more, as long as you can do something similar to that. Banished Emperor, I will be satisfied." In the future? Lu Hanhuan heard something from Xiao Hua's words and hurriedly asked, Senior, are you leaving Xingyin Ridge? That's right. Xiao Hua nodded and said, I'm not a disciple of the Chanhe sect, naturally I have to leave. Where are you going, Senior? Lu Hanhuan couldn't help but ask. Xiao Hua smiled and looked outside the hall and said, Where I came from, I naturally have to go somewhere else. Senior, from Fengyan Kingdom to Wuming Mountain Range, we have to pass through many immortal alliances, and from the Dao Alliance to the Heaven Alliance, there's a gap that ordinary cultivators can't cross. Lu Hanhuan pleaded, Senior, why don't you stay in Xingyin Ridge, wait for your magical power to recover before you leave? No. Xiao Hua shook his head. I've made up my mind. I called you here today to discuss two things with you. Lu Hanhuan knew that he couldn't keep Xiao Hua, tears welled up in his eyes, and he knelt on the ground and said, Junior, thank you for your kindness, Senior. If it wasn't for you, how could I stand in front of you now? How could my Chanhe sect still exist in Xingyin Ridge? Not to mention two things, even if it's 10 things or 100 things, I'll agree. Get up. Xiao Hua helped Lu Hanhuan up and said, The first thing is about the modified cultivation method. You have to think clearly, do you want it or not? Lu Hanhuan got up. Seeing that Xiao Hua was so faithful to his promise, he was grateful in his heart, but at the same time, he felt embarrassed and replied, Speaking of this, I have to report to you, Senior. When Elder Yu accompanied Huang Su to Xia Mountain Range that day, I didn't think it through and revealed the secret method of selecting spiritual roots to the fallen immortal sect first. Out of my expectation, the famous fallen immortal sect was actually troubled by the matter of selecting disciples. When Huang Su brought the jade slip back to the fallen immortal sect, he also guessed that you might have a suitable cultivation method for spiritual roots, and wanted to invite the head of the fallen immortal sect, Xian Xiaozi, to come to Xingyin Ridge and pay a visit to you personally. Oh, I understand. Xiao Hua's expression didn't change. Head Lu, you want the modified cultivation method, but you're afraid that the fallen immortal sect Xian Xiaozi would turn against you after taking the cultivation method? Lu Hanhuan blushed and nodded, Senior, what you said is really my intention. I'm really scared by the shamelessness of the fallen immortal sect's disciples. Not to that extent. Xiao Hua thought for a while and said, If I can modify the cultivation method, the head of the fallen immortal sect must also be able to modify the cultivation method. Moreover, the cultivation of disciples with spiritual roots isn't much different from the cultivation of ordinary disciples. The use of spiritual roots is only to select the disciples who are able to cultivate. Of course, the spiritual energy of heaven and earth is changing. I don't know whether the spiritual roots can be used for cultivation in the future. Moreover, although the actions of the fallen immortal sect's disciples were a little shameless, they weren't unreasonable, and Xian Xiaozi wouldn't be like Yang Jiao Shiwu, so you don't have to worry too much. Moreover, the rarer something is, the more valuable it is. If the fallen immortal sect wants to lay their hands on the Chanhe sect, they must be afraid that the secret skills and cultivation methods will be leaked. After I leave, I will definitely bid for these secret skills and cultivation methods at the places I pass by. When the Fengyan Kingdom has more of these items, the fallen immortal sect will naturally not have any evil intentions. After listening to Xiao Hua's explanation, Lu Hanhuan made a decision and replied, If that's the case, I have no choice but to take these modified cultivation methods. Otherwise, wouldn't I have offended Senior Xian Xiaozi if he comes and misses me? It's up to your own judgment. Xiao Hua said, Anyway, I have an agreement with you. If you want it, I'll leave the cultivation method behind. Then I'll have to trouble you, Senior, to give me the cultivation method of those spiritual roots. Lu Hanhuan said and probed, Senior, can't you stay for a few more days? Can you wait until Xian Xiaozi comes before you leave? It's only about 10 days from the fallen immortal sect to here. It won't take up too much of your time. Sigh, fine. Xiao Hua was the most soft-hearted. When he heard Lu Hanhuan's pleading, he thought that it would only take about 10 days, so he sighed and agreed, Then I'll stay in Xingyin Ridge for another month. However, I'll make it clear, if Xian Xiaozi doesn't come in a month, I'll definitely leave, and I won't wait for another day. P.S. Fellow cultivators who like this book, please subscribe to it at Chidian, vote for it, vote for it, vote for it, give it a tip, and Chapter 4872. Yes, thank you, Senior. Lu Hanhuan was overjoyed. He had already heard from Yu Zhuohong how important the spiritual root selection technique was to the fallen immortal sect. He also knew how important it was to Huang Su. He believed that after Xian Xiaozi obtained the spiritual root selection technique, he would definitely rush to Xingyin Ridge as soon as possible. Alright, the first matter is settled. Let me tell you the second matter. Xiao Hua had just finished speaking when he looked outside the main hall and said, just in time, he's here. Her. Lu Hanhuan smiled, as though he had already guessed the meaning behind Xiao Hua's words. Although it was a rhetorical question, he had already confirmed it in his heart. However, when Lu Hanhuan saw Nuo Yeqing, he quickly walked to the front of the hall and bowed respectfully. Disciple is here on Senior's orders. May I know what Senior has for me? You? Lu Hanhuan was confused and asked curiously, did Senior Zhang ask you to come here? Greetings, sect leader. Nuo Yeqing felt a little guilty and did not dare to face Lu Hanhuan directly. She said softly, disciple is indeed here on Senior's orders. Seeing that the disciple was Nuo Yeqing and not his previous Yuehua, Lu Hanhuan turned his head and said, Senior, the second matter, is actually related to Nuo Yeqing. Who do you think it is? Xiao Hua smiled and said, I have just come out of seclusion and am not familiar with the situation in the Yilin mainland. Since Nuo Yeqing is fated to be with me, I would like him to be my guide. Just treat it as, Xiao Hua originally wanted to say, just treat it as him going out to train. However, when the words reached his mouth, Xiao Hua felt that this reason was a little forced. His heart skipped a beat and he changed his words, just treat it as a test. If I feel that he is suitable, I will ask my disciples to accept him as their disciple. Not only was Lu Hanhuan shocked, even Nuo Yeqing was so shocked that her mouth was agape. She felt that it was unbelievable. Quick. Lu Hanhuan reacted quickly and hurriedly waved his hand, Yeqing, hurry up and thank Senior Zhang. Yes, Junior thanks Senior. Nuo Yeqing's brain couldn't react for a moment. It was just bringing her to the Wuming mountain range. Was it worth it for Xiao Hua to risk so much? Nuo Yeqing, this old man only said that this disciple may accept you as a disciple. If your performance is not good, this old man will not open his mouth. Xiao Hua replied with a smile. Yes, I understand. Nuo Yeqing finally understood that Xiao Hua was trying to make up an even more convincing reason. His heart was actually somewhat disappointed. Xiao Hua ignored Nuo Yeqing's mood and said, this old man has just made an appointment with sect leader Lu to stay in Xingyin Ridge for another month or so. You should take advantage of this time to make some preparations. Of course, it's best to make a deal with the Chan sect. Who knows if you will perform well in the future? Yes, I know what to do. Disciple will take her leave now. Nuo Yeqing bowed and left. Lu Hanhuan looked at Nuo Yeqing's back and was really jealous of his luck. After Nuo Yeqing left, Lu Hanhuan accompanied Xiao Hua for a few words and also hurriedly took his leave. After all, there were still a lot of things to deal with in the Flying Shadow sect. Now that Xiao Hua's attitude had already made it clear, Lu Hanhuan could let go of his hands and feet and do a big job. Out of Xiao Hua's and Lu Hanhuan's expectations, within 30 days, not only did the fallen immortal sect leader Xian Xiaozi not come, even Huang Su and the other hall masters did not come. Even the Life and Death Alliance, that Huang Su had once mentioned, did not come from the fallen immortal sect. Lu Hanhuan was frightened and somewhat regretful. He felt that he should have sent Yu Zhuohong and the others to accompany Huang Su back to the fallen immortal sect. Because as long as the fallen immortal sect's attitude was not clear, he would not be at ease. And Xiao Hua could not stay in Xingyin Ridge forever. Helplessly, Lu Hanhuan earnestly asked Xiao Hua to stay for a few more days while he sent Gao Cheng to the Fallen Immortal sect again to find out what the Fallen Immortal sect was thinking. In 30 days, Xiao Hua's physical body had constructed a lot more, and the seeds of the various avatars in his physical body had also filled up a lot. Xiao Hua could clearly sense that 9 extremely similar but slightly different laws of heaven and earth were thriving in his body. This kind of growth did not require Xiao Hua to carefully comprehend it. It was as if Xiao Hua himself was growing within the laws. Therefore, Xiao Hua was not particularly anxious. He agreed to Lu Hanhuan's request and continued to modify a few common cultivation techniques of the Chan He sect in the passage hall. There were generally a few types of modification of cultivation techniques. It could be modified according to the different physiques of the cultivator, or according to the different understanding of the cultivator, or according to the difference in the spiritual energy of heaven and earth. Most ordinary cultivators could do the first 2 types. Obviously, Xiao Hua was modifying the 3rd type. If it was before, when Xiao Hua was in the 3 continents, even if he was already at the Mahayana stage of the human race, even if he had the magical powers of Buddhism, Taoism, Confucianism, demon, and other sects, it would be difficult for him to modify this cultivation technique to adapt to the spiritual energy of heaven and earth. But now, Xiao Hua had experienced the spiritual energy of heaven and earth in the 10,000 demon realm and the laws of heaven and earth in the immature space. At this time, he had entrusted his primordial spirit to the laws of heaven and earth, and condensed his body and many of his avatars with the laws of heaven and earth. In his eyes, the spiritual energy of heaven and earth in the Yilan continent, Dawn Rain continent, 10,000 demon realm, hidden immortal continent, 1,000 demons sacred realm, and the pure land world had gradually revealed their essence. He could clearly see the source of the spiritual energy of heaven and earth, and also vaguely understood the reason for the change in cultivation due to the spiritual energy of heaven and earth. Therefore, he had a unique advantage in modifying cultivation techniques. It's very simple. If you want to modify cultivation techniques, you must first understand why the spiritual energy of heaven and earth changed. Xiao Hua was sitting in the elapsing palace, and said something to Nuo Yeqing. Beside Nuo Yeqing, Yu Hua and Lu Qingyu listened carefully without blinking. Although I don't know where the spiritual energy of heaven and earth changed, I know that it must be because of the spatial crack, which caused the spiritual energy of heaven and earth from other realms to flow into the Yilan continent. The spiritual energy of heaven and earth is completely different from the spiritual energy of heaven and earth in our continent, which caused the change. Of course, whether it's the cultivators of the Heaven Alliance or the Tao Alliance, they must have guessed this. In these hundreds of years, they must have searched the entire Yilan continent to find where the spatial crack is. This requires a lot of manpower, and I'm afraid only these 2 giants can do it. Your cultivation is still shallow now, so you must not know that there are other realms outside of the Yilan continent. Let's not talk about anything else, I only know of the 10,000 demon realm. That's a realm filled with demon spirits, and there are no humans. Xiao Hua thought for a while and explained, the realm that leaked the spiritual qi of heaven and earth into our Yilan continent should be similar to the 10,000 demon realm. This is because, under the changes in the spiritual qi of heaven and earth, all the demon beasts on the Yilan continent have become much stronger, and all the human cultivators with the true spirit bloodline have also become much stronger. This is also the reason why the previously unknown Flying Shadow sect suddenly rose up and became so ambitious. Speaking of this, Xiao Hua's heart skipped a beat. This was because, according to the Swift Cherry Supreme Sage and the others, in the vicinity of the Tao Heaven world, other than the 10,000 demon realm, there was also the Dark Spirit realm. The spiritual qi of heaven and earth in the Dark Spirit realm was the nightmare of the demon beasts in the 10,000 demon realm. Perhaps the changes in the spiritual qi of heaven and earth in the Yilan continent and Xiaoyu continent were caused by the Dark Spirit realm. Of course, this thought flashed through Xiao Hua's mind. This was because he did not have the time to go to the Dark Spirit realm to verify it, nor did he have the time to search for the spatial crack between the Dark Spirit realm and the Yilan continent. Senior. Nua Yeching asked thoughtfully, if that's the case, shouldn't we use the true spirit bloodline's cultivation method to modify our cultivation method? Xiao Hua nodded and said, that's right. That's right. However, it is only a reference, because it is said that these descendants of the true spirit bloodline seem to be unable to escape the influence of the spiritual qi in addition to the rapid advancement of their spiritual power. This old man has to consider from another perspective. Body cultivator? Yu Hua probed. This junior heard that some body cultivators are not very sensitive to the changes in the spiritual qi of heaven and earth. Not bad, not bad. Xiao Hua looked at Yu Hua in surprise and clapped his hands. Fairy Yu, your comprehension is not bad. This old man didn't expect that you would know that body cultivators are not sensitive to the changes in the spiritual qi of heaven and earth even though your Chanha sect doesn't have any body cultivators. Yu Hua blushed slightly and said embarrassedly, Senior, I'm a golden core cultivator after all. Because of the lightning tribulation of nascent soul cultivators, I've put in a lot of hard work. During my travels, I listened to the experiences of many nascent soul cultivators who had undergone the lightning tribulation. That's right. Xiao Hua nodded and said, however, if we only focus on body cultivators, I'm afraid we won't be able to eradicate the effects of the spiritual qi of heaven and earth. We need to focus on the bloodline cultivation method. Bloodline cultivation method? Nua Yeching was shocked and blurted out, could it be that Senior Zhang is also proficient in the bloodline cultivation method? I'm not proficient. This old man knows a little. Xiao Hua said with a smile, this old man modified your Chanha sect's cultivation method by combining the bloodline cultivation method and body cultivation method. Heavens! Lu Qingyu was a little confused. He said in a low voice, now that Senior said this junior understands a little. It turns out that modifying a cultivation method is so complicated. No wonder the seniors of Chu Pu Immortal Alliance still don't have a solution. Senior's modification. I'm afraid you've already eliminated the effects of the changes in the spiritual qi of heaven and earth? Nua Yeching sighed and asked in a low voice, Senior's actions are immeasurable. How can it be so simple? Xiao Hua shook his head, the low-level cultivation method has been modified, but it still needs to be tested. Then it needs to be modified again. As for the high-level cultivation method, it's not so easy to modify. Without hundreds or thousands of years, it's impossible to make any progress. P.S. Fellow Taoists who like this book, please go to Qidian to subscribe to support, vote for a month, vote for a recommendation, collect, reward, and thank all forms of support. Chapter 4873. Yuehua and Lu Qingyu looked at each other bitterly. They knew that even if Xiao Hua started to modify the cultivation technique now, they wouldn't be able to catch up. Then, Yuehua looked at Xiao Hua and asked tentatively, then, Senior, we are about to reach the late stage of the Golden Core realm. Do you have any method to pass the lightning tribulation? Xiao Hua smiled bitterly. He thought for a moment and said, I don't know how powerful the lightning tribulation is. However, I think that if you can refine the Pleiades demon devouring immortal array that I gave you, you should be able to block most of the lightning tribulation. Yuehua was overjoyed. However, she was still worried and asked, then, if I can refine the entire Pleiades demon devouring immortal array, will I be able to block all of the lightning tribulation? Xiao Hua shrugged. He understood what Yuehua meant. He smiled and said, I don't dare to guarantee this. However, I can be sure that if I give you the array flag of the Pleiades demon devouring immortal array, you won't be able to live long enough to refine it. A man's wealth is his own ruin. Yes, Senior, you're right. I was too greedy. Yuehua blushed and lowered her head. Next to him, Lu Qingyu asked, Senior, why do you think late gold core stage cultivators like us have to face a thunder tribulation when we step into the nascent soul stage? Xiao Hua thought for a moment and replied, the change in the spiritual energy of heaven and earth has a process of change. It starts with a change in quantity, which may cause the spiritual energy of heaven and earth to change in the Yi-Lin continent. When the quantity reaches a certain level, it may cause the laws of heaven and earth to change. This is because the spiritual energy of heaven and earth is targeted at demonic spirits. When demonic spirits want to condense their bodies, they will face the lightning tribulation. When human cultivators reach the nascent soul realm, can't they also reform their bodies? Isn't it similar to demonic spirits and demonic beasts? In that case, the birth of the lightning tribulation was only logical. What's more, the formation of a nascent soul is when the laws of heaven and earth enter the body, which is the birth of a spirit body. When the laws of heaven and earth change, it naturally has to engrave new laws in the spirit body, so it's natural for the lightning tribulation to occur. Xiaohua's explanation was based on the understanding of the Mahayana stage of the human race. Yu Hua and Lu Qingyu were a little confused, but Nua Yeqing's eyes flashed with clear light, and she asked, "Senior, if this is the explanation for the lightning tribulation of the nascent soul stage and body condensation stage, then, why would the lifespan of the divinity branching stage, void refinement stage, and other seniors when they use their magic power? Does senior know?" "Oh." Xiaohua was stunned. He looked at this mere foundation establishment disciple and asked curiously, "How do you know all this?" Nua Yeqing was also surprised and said, "Senior, didn't you say so yourself in front of the Nebula Ridge?" He seemed to be asking about Deputy Hall Master Huang of the Fallen Immortal Sect. Furthermore, this junior has heard Elder Pang and the others mention it before. "Huh, that's true. You little fellow, your ears are quite sharp." Xiaohua thought for a moment and said with a smile, "It's best that you don't know about this at your current cultivation level. Otherwise, it will affect your Tao heart." "Yes, this junior understands." Nua Yeqing said with a smile, "This junior is just curious. I wonder if senior can explain it to me?" Xiaohua looked at Nua Yeqing with interest. After thinking for a moment, he nodded and said, "This matter seems very mysterious, but it's also very simple to explain. Let me ask you, how do you use the magic art now?" Nua Yeqing was puzzled and asked curiously, "This junior doesn't understand what senior means." "Using the magic art. Isn't it using the magic art with the hand to activate the magic power and use the magic power?" "Yes, when you activate the magic power, is it the true essence in your body? If you cultivate qi, is it the true essence in your body?" Xiaohua said and looked at Yu Hua and Lu Qingyu, "You are a gold core cultivator, so you naturally activate the true essence in your gold core. If you are a nascent soul cultivator, you naturally activate the true essence in your gold core, right?" "Yes, this principle. All Taoist cultivators should understand, right?" Lu Qingyu didn't know whether to laugh or cry as he replied. "Of course they understand." Xiaohua narrowed his eyes and said with a smile, "Because the cultivation of Taoist cultivators is based on the spiritual qi of heaven and earth. And no matter what realm a cultivator is in, when he activates the magic power, he has to rely on the spiritual qi of heaven and earth. Since the spiritual qi of heaven and earth changes, activating the magic power will naturally affect the cultivator. Senior, the question is, why will it affect the lifespan?" Lu Qingyu was eager to know the reason and asked. "Okay." Xiaohua ignored Lu Qingyu and said to Yu Hua, "Fairy Yu, if you activate the magic art that consumes a lot of magic power, or if you use the magic art that only nascent soul cultivators can use, what will the consequences be?" "Naturally, it will be the backlash of the magic power. If it's light, the meridians will be broken, and if it's heavy, the gold core will be shattered." Yu Hua answered without hesitation. "But if your meridians are tougher, and your gold core is several times bigger?" Xiaohua asked. "Of course it's possible." Yu Hua said in confusion, "But Junior's meridians can only be tempered to this extent, and my gold core can only be that big." "Yes, you can only do this much." Yu Hua sighed, "But this junior also understands that if senior modifies this cultivation method, our Dao sect cultivators, should be able to walk a path to heaven under the changes of heaven and earth. That's right, modifying the cultivation method should be the only way for us Yilan continent cultivators to survive. Lu Qingyu agreed. No. Xiaohua looked outside the hall and shook his head. Modifying the cultivation method is not the only way. There's an even simpler way. Senior. Yu Hua exclaimed, there's another way to survive? Senior, can you tell us? There's another way, which is to go to other realms. Xiaohua withdrew his gaze. As long as we go to other realms, wouldn't we not be disturbed by the Yilan continent's heaven and earth spiritual qi? However, Xiaohua sighed again at this point. It's a pity that although this path is simple, it's also extremely difficult. Even our Dao sect's Grand Ascension stage cultivators wouldn't be able to easily cross realms. Not to mention the tens of millions of other Dao sect disciples. If Grand Ascension stage cultivators can't do it, we can ask Tribulation Transcendence stage cultivators to help us. Nua Yeching smiled. Rather than perishing during Tribulation Transcendence like the fallen celestial sect spiritual master Huang Qiong, it's better to take the risk and go to other realms. Tribulation Transcendence stage cultivators? Xiaohua was stunned for a moment before coming to a realization. On the Dawn Rain continent and the Yilan continent, the peak of Dao sect cultivation was Tribulation Transcendence stage. This was slightly different from the other three continents. The Tribulation Transcendence stage cultivators that Nua Yeching was referring to were naturally Grand Ascension stage cultivators like Xiaohua. The passageways between realms are usually formed by heaven and can't be created by humans. Xiaohua pondered for a moment before explaining, moreover, the laws of heaven and earth in different realms are different. Even Tribulation Transcendence stage cultivators wouldn't be able to withstand the transformation of the laws of heaven and earth. So how can ordinary cultivators succeed? Nua Yeching was disappointed, and she whispered, is there really no hope? I don't have a way for the time being. Xiaohua spoke the truth, I can only try my best to do what I can. Senior. Nua Yeching saw that Xiaohua was treating them well, and she stole a glance at Yuehua and Lu Qingyu before asking in a low voice, Senior. Can you accept my master and martial aunt Yuehua as your disciples? Yuehua and Lu Qingyu's bodies trembled when they heard Nua Yeching's words, and they looked at Xiaohua with longing in their eyes. This. Xiaohua was a little hesitant. If it was before, there was no need to say anything. Although Yuehua and Lu Qingyu's cultivation were lower, Xiaohua only needed to use the Kunlun mirror to take them in, and then let the other Fortune Gate disciples take them in as their disciples. However, the situation was different now. Xiaohua couldn't absorb them into his space, and it was already troublesome for him to leave with Nua Yeching. Now that he had to bring 2 Golden Core Realm cultivators with him, wouldn't it be even more troublesome? This was what ordinary Dao sect cultivators meant when they said that they had no fate. P.S. Fellow Taoists who like this book, please subscribe to it at Qidian, vote for it, give it a recommendation vote, collect it, and give it a tip. Chapter 48-74. Both of you are too weak. I can't accept you as my disciples. Xiaohua said bluntly, both of you are the best disciples in the Chanhe sect. If I take both of you away, won't Lu Hanhuan be angry? Yuehua and Lu Qingyu were disappointed. They said softly, we are just wishful thinking. Sorry for making things difficult for you. After that, Nua Yeching made an excuse to say goodbye to her master. The 3 of them got up and left. Sigh, I can only say that we are not fated. Xiaohua looked at the 3 of them leaving and sighed. He inserted his divine thought into the empty jade slip and continued to modify the cultivation method of the golden core. 10 days later, Lu Hanhuan finally brought Gao Cheng to the Hall of Time again. However, looking at Gao Cheng's gloomy face, Xiaohua knew that something had gone wrong. Sure enough, Gao Cheng bowed and said, Senior, I went to the fallen immortal sect this time. I didn't see Shen Jun and the others, nor did I see Deputy Hall Chief Huang. Oh. Where did they go? Didn't the fallen immortal sect tell you? Xiao Hua asked curiously. Gao Qing smiled bitterly and said, Senior, you think too highly of the disciples of the fallen immortal sect. They claim to be a famous sect and have always been arrogant. They don't even see the shadow of the Chan He sect in their eyes. Last time, I was fooled by Shinjun and the others. This time, they didn't even have the mood to fool me. They didn't even want to see me. Xiao Hua knew that the fallen immortal sect might not be as bad as Gao Qing said. Gao Qing said this because he was angry. This was all from Gao Cheng's point of view. Therefore, he thought for a while and said with a smile, I don't believe that you came back empty-handed. Gao Qing nodded and said, yes, I was ordered by the sect leader to find out the exact information. Otherwise, I wouldn't dare to come back so easily. That's enough, hurry up and say it. Lu Hanhuan, who was beside him, also had a displeased look on his face as he urged. I waited for many days near the fallen immortal sect and finally met a disciple who was alone. Gao Qing continued, so, I followed this disciple to a place forbidding and deliberately got close to him. Later on, I found out that after Deputy Hall Master Huang returned to the fallen immortal sect, he did not stay and left immediately. As for Zhijun and the other disciples, he did not know. But according to him, there were some urgent matters happening in Chu Pu Immortal Alliance recently. The leader of Fallen Immortal Sect, Xian Shaozi, did not seem to be in Fallen Immortal Sect. In my opinion, Vice Hall Master Huang. Has he gone to look for Senior Xian Shaozi? As he said, Gao Qing looked at Lu Hanhuan. Lu Hanhuan nodded his head and said to Gao Qing, Senior, this junior thinks so too. After all, the spiritual root selection secret skill was too important. It was impossible for the fallen immortal sect to ignore it. It's only because Senior Xian Shaozi isn't in the sect that Vice Hall Master Huang doesn't dare to act on his own. Perhaps so. Xiao Hua thought for a moment before replying, however, this old man wants to ask, where is the Chu Pu Immortal Alliance? When will Huang Su return? Lu Hanhuan said bitterly, the Chu Pu Immortal Alliance is formed by the cultivation sects and clans of our Fengyan country, Yu country, Dan Shao country and 18 other countries. It doesn't have a fixed location. This time, who knows where Senior Xian Shaozi went? So, we also don't know when Huang Su will return. Could it be more than a year? Xiao Hua sighed and asked. Lu Hanhuan did not dare to hide the truth and nodded his head slightly, although he did not know where Xian Shaozi went. Then this old man can't wait any longer. Xiao Hua stood up and said, this old man will prepare to leave Xingyin Ridge now. Yes, this junior understands. This junior will send senior off now. Although Lu Hanhuan was unwilling, he did not dare to say anything more and could only comply with Xiao Hua. Xiao Hua smiled and said, Sect Leader Lu, don't worry. Aren't you worried about the spiritual root selection secret skill and the modified basic cultivation techniques? After this old man leaves, I will slowly make these secret skills and cultivation techniques public. The more spiritual root selection secret skill there are in Yilin mainland, the less danger your Chan He sect will face, right? Anyway, your Chan He sect has already taken the lead. This opportunity has already been secured. Of course, Lu Hanhuan did not like Xiao Hua announcing the secret skills and cultivation techniques so early. However, after thinking about the danger of his sect being exterminated, he forced a smile and said, Thank you for your trouble, Senior. This junior does not need to worry. At this point, Lu Hanhuan thought of something and hurriedly said, Senior, please wait a moment. Although my Chan He sect is a small sect, our disciples have received many benefits from Senior. This junior has some gifts for Senior. I hope Senior will kindly accept them. Hee, all right. Xiao Hua smiled and followed Lu Hanhuan out of the hall of passing. Who knew that outside the hall, other than Nua Yeqing, Yu Hua, and Lu Qingyu were also standing there with smiles on their faces. Xiao Hua's gaze swept across them and immediately understood something. Sure enough, Lu Hanhuan smiled and said, Senior is traveling far away with Nua Yeching, who is in Foundation establishment. This junior was afraid that it would be inconvenient for Senior on the way, so I asked Yu Hua and Lu Qingyu to send Senior off. If Senior feels that the two of them are serving you well, there is no need to send them back. Xiao Hua looked at Nua Yeching, and Nua Yeching shook her head slightly. Xiao Hua knew that this matter was not his doing. However, when Xiao Hua looked at Lu Qingyu's eyes actually flickered. On the other hand, Yu Hua's face was filled with excitement and her eyes were clear. Since that was the case, Xiao Hua did not refuse too much and said with a smile, "Then this old man thanks sect leader Lu. I don't dare." Compared to Senior's generous gift, what Junior has done is really insignificant. Lu Hanhuan hurriedly said respectfully. Subsequently, the two elders, Yu Zhuahong and Pang Lusheng, came over and accompanied Xiao Hua to say a few words. Only then did they send Xiao Hua out of Xingyin Ridge. In order to not attract the attention of people with ulterior motives and maintain a kind of deterrence, Lu Hanhuan did not send all the disciples to send Xiao Hua off. Only these few cultivators quietly accompanied Xiao Hua out of Chanhe sect. After Xiao Hua waved goodbye to Lu Hanhuan and his figure landed on the flying boat controlled by Lu Qingyu and left, Lu Hanhuan let out a long sigh and sighed, "Senior Zhang is really an upright senior expert. This is the first time I have seen someone like him in my life. It's a pity that we can't keep him in Xingyin Ridge. Once he leaves, who knows when we will see him again." Yu Zhuahong also lamented, "Sigh, that's right. If our Chanhe sect has Senior Zhang in charge, why would we be afraid of the fallen immortal sect?" "Elder Yu, you think too much." Gao Qing said faintly, "Not to mention a small sect like our Chanhe sect, even the fallen immortal sect. I'm afraid it can't accommodate a great god like Senior Zhang. If he is not a Mahayana cultivator, then he is a tribulation stage cultivator. We are already lucky to have the opportunity to form a relationship with our Chanhe sect this time." "Ah. Tribulation stage cultivator?" Lu Hanhuan was shocked and said, "I think it's already amazing that Senior Zhang is a Mahayana cultivator. Ever since spiritual master Huang Qiong failed to pass the tribulation in the famous fallen immortal sect, there has been no tribulation stage cultivator in the sect. How could Senior Zhang be a tribulation stage cultivator?" "Sect leader Lu, we are just frogs at the bottom of the well." Gao Qing smiled bitterly and said, "Do you know about the 10,000 demon realm, the realm power, and the laws of heaven and earth?" Lu Hanhuan was dumbfounded. He shook his head and said, "What are these? How would I know?" Then, Lu Hanhuan was shocked again and asked, "Could it be that Senior Zhang told you?" "It was not Senior Zhang who told me, it was Senior Zhang who told Lu Qingyu," Gao Qing said in a low voice. Not to mention the guesses of the people of Chanhe sect, Lu Qingyu drove the flying boat and flew for more than 100 miles. He turned his head and looked at the gradually blurred Xingyin Ridge and said with emotion, "Ever since I joined Chanhe sect, I have never thought that I would leave Chanhe sect one day." Nua Yeching smiled and said, "Master, you are lucky." If sect leader Lu was not embarrassed to let martial uncle Yu serve Senior Zhang alone, how could you follow Senior Zhang? Yuehua heard and blushed. She rebuked, "Yeching, how could you say this in front of Senior Zhang? Senior sister you drive the flying boat first." Lu Qingyu said. "Okay." Yuehua was in a good mood and replaced Lu Qingyu to drive the flying boat. Lu Qingyu knelt in front of Xiao Hua and said, "Senior Zhang, this is my own decision. Please forgive me." "Oh." Xiao Hua was stunned. He already knew that this was Lu Qingyu's doing, but he did not expect Lu Qingyu to confess to him as soon as he left the sect. "Since I have agreed, I will not blame you for this." Xiao Hua raised his hand and said, "It is human nature for people to walk to higher places and water to flow to lower places. I can understand your desire to pursue the Tao. Previously, I felt that I was not fated with you. Since you have worked hard, this fate has become fate. Get up. Junior brother Lu." Yuehua looked at everything in front of her in surprise and whispered, "Could it be that this was not arranged by sect leader? I won't hide it from senior sister." Lu Qingyu put down the worry in his heart and replied with a smile on his face, "Sect leader had this intention, but he was afraid that Senior Zhang would be unhappy. Since I want to stay by Senior Zhang's side and serve him, I borrowed Elder Gao's words to encourage sect leader Lu. Of course, if it were not for senior sister Yu, I would never be able to leave Xingyin Ridge." Master. Nua Yeqing did not know whether to laugh or cry. "You are too calculative. Damn it, how can I be more calculative than you?" Lu Qingyu said, "How many times have I told you that the road to Wumeng mountain range is very dangerous, but you didn't listen. When you saw Senior Zhang, you desperately told him that if you can leave Xingyin Ridge, why can't I? Do you know how jealous I was of you when I found out that you could follow Senior Zhang? Hee, master, didn't I also put in a good word for you in front of Senior Zhang?" Nua Yeqing said with a smile. Yuehua was shocked at first, but then she saw that Xiaohua did not seem to care. She sighed and said gratefully, "Junior brother Lu, if that is the case, senior sister also has to thank you. P.S. Fellow Taoists who like this book, please subscribe to it at Qidian, vote for it, vote for it, vote for it, give it a reward, and thank you for all forms of support." Chapter 4875. You don't have to thank me. Lu Qingyu waved his hand and said, "Now that Senior Zhang is traveling alone in the Yilin continent, we just need to serve him well. Don't you think so?" Lu Qingyu's last sentence was directed at Xiaohua. Xiaohua looked at the three people and smiled in his heart. After all, there was still a long way to go to the Wumeng mountain range. It was better to have someone to accompany him than to talk to himself. "Senior, now that we have left the Xingyin Ridge, where should we go?" Seeing that Xiaohua did not answer Lu Qingyu, Nua Yeqing hurriedly changed the topic and asked. Xiaohua thought for a moment and took out Yu Zhuohong's jade slip. He threw it to Lu Qingyu and said, "This is the route to the Heavenly Alliance. Take a look and bring me there." "Yes, senior." Lu Qingyu took the jade slip and said as he looked at it. However, after looking at it for a moment, he smiled bitterly and said, "Senior, do you have any crystals with you?" Xiaohua waved his hand and said, "When I came out of seclusion, weren't you there? I didn't even have any clothes on me, how could I have crystals?" Hee. Yu Hua's face was slightly red, as if she thought of something and unconsciously laughed. "Then we'll have to trouble you." Lu Qingyu shrugged and said, "When sect leader Lu asked me to serve you, he also gave me a few storage rings, but there were not many crystals in them. We need to use the transmission array on the jade slip, so these crystals are far from enough. If we fly there directly, not to mention that it's not easy for us to pass through some of the natural barriers, just the time. I'm afraid it'll take us at least 100 years. Isn't that simple? Let's go directly to the Xiehong Mountain Auction House." Xiaohua smiled and said, "I never thought that the Chanhe sect could give me enough crystals." "Okay." Yu Hua heard and said sweetly, "Senior, please sit tight. I'll send you to the Xiehong Mountain Auction House." Not to mention Xiaohua going to the Xiehong Mountain Auction House, just the fallen immortal sect. Although Xiaohua knew that the secret technique for selecting spiritual roots was important, he did not expect that the moment this secret technique was revealed, it would cause such a huge uproar in the Yilin continent. While Xiaohua was explaining to Nua Yeqing about the effects of the changes in the world's spiritual energy in the passage hall in Nebula Ridge, a flying boat was flying towards the southeast at an unknown distance away from Nebula Ridge. On the flying boat, apart from the several mid-spirit severing stage cultivators standing on the edge, there was Huang Su and another thin old man standing at the center of the flying boat with an anxious expression. This old man's cultivation was about the late stage of the spirit severing stage. He was wearing a treasured green robe. His hands, which were hidden in his sleeves, were faintly shining with a layer of pale golden light. When the old man saw the anxiety on Huang Su's face, he couldn't help but laugh, Vice Hall Master Huang, why are you so anxious? In half a day's time, we will reach River Origin City. There is a teleportation array there. My Strength Hall's disciples are waiting beside the teleportation array. With them leading the way, we will be able to find the sect master without much effort. Yes, yes. Facing this old man, Huang Su did not dare to be negligent. Although he did not hide the anxiety on his face, he still forced a smile and replied, "This junior knows that with Hall Master you personally sending us off, as well as the senior brothers from the Strength Hall, there will be no accidents. But, this junior still feels that something is wrong. I am afraid that if we are late, we will delay this important matter that concerns the future of our fallen immortal sect." Oh. Hall Master Yu's expression changed. He looked at Huang Su and asked curiously, "Vice Hall Master Huang, this old man knows that I should not ask too much. But that Hall Master Wang Qi personally brought you to find this old man. He wanted my Strength Hall's most loyal disciple to protect you and ensure that you will be sent to the sect master's side. This old man is very surprised. I don't know what your Jingjing Hall discovered that you insisted on meeting the sect master when he is heading to Chu Pu Immortal Alliance for the Immortal Alliance Conference. This is why this old man personally came to send you to River Origin City. You must know that other than sending Alliance Master when off previously, I did not even send the sect master off to the Immortal Alliance this time." At this point, Hall Master Yu did not say anything else, nor did he say what he wanted to ask. But how could Huang Su not understand what Hall Master Yu wanted to know? Huang Su could not help but complain secretly in his heart. He knew that since Hall Master Yu was curious, there would definitely be a knot in his heart. If he didn't say anything, he would definitely offend him. But if he did say something, thinking about the 10 nascent soul disciples who suddenly disappeared, Huang Su's heart would be afraid. After thinking for a moment, Huang Su whispered, "Hall Master Yu, this matter, this junior will only tell you. You must keep it a secret." "Of course. Don't worry, I will definitely not tell anyone else." Hall Master Yu almost patted his chest to assure Huang Su. "It's like this, Hall Master Yu. Do you still remember the only person in the fallen immortal sect who could possibly reach the tribulation stage?" Huang Su asked mysteriously. Hall Master Yu was stunned for a moment. Then, a yearning expression appeared on his face and he said in a reminiscing tone, "Of course I know. Back then, when Huang Qiong was guarding the fallen immortal sect, how glorious was our fallen immortal sect. When the Alliance Master of Chu Pu Immortal Alliance passed by the Fengyan Kingdom, he had to come to our fallen immortal sect to meet him. At that time, not only did the Fengyan Kingdom respect our fallen immortal sect, but also the neighboring kingdoms, who dared to go against us. Sigh, it's a pity that ever since Huang Qiong failed to pass the tribulation stage, our fallen immortal sect's power fell drastically. Today, our sect master has to travel thousands of miles to attend the Immortal Alliance conference." At this point, Hall Master Yu stopped and said in surprise, "What? Don't tell me you found out." "Hee, that's right," Huang Su said in a low voice. "Hall Master Yu's guess is right. I found out. Somewhere in the Fengyan Kingdom where Huang Qiong was undergoing the tribulation stage." "How is that possible?" Hall Master Yu was even more incredulous. He shook his head and said, "When Huang Qiong failed to pass the tribulation stage, our sect master ordered us to search the entire Fengyan Kingdom and find out where Huang Qiong was undergoing the tribulation stage. Even though I can't say that I've explored every inch of the Fengyan Kingdom, I've been to most of the places. Even after we searched the entire Fengyan Kingdom, our sect master's personal guards didn't find out where Huang Qiong was undergoing the tribulation stage." Hee. Huang Su chuckled before he asked in a low voice, "Hall Master Yu, let me ask you a question. If Royal Dome's spiritual master set up the heavenly cycle devil subduing star formation, would you be able to detect the traces of it?" "Of course." Hall Master Yu replied without hesitation. "Even our sect master wouldn't be able to find it, let alone me." "So," Huang Su said proudly, although our fallen immortal sect searched the entire Feng Yen kingdom, we still couldn't find out where Huang Qiong was undergoing the tribulation stage. What are you talking about? Hall Master Yu said unhappily. I've already thought about this situation. Huang Qiong must have set up the heavenly demon subduing star formation to resist the tribulation stage. However, the heavenly demon subduing star formation couldn't be in perfect condition. Moreover, Huang Qiong had failed the tribulation stage and the formation was broken. How could it still be in perfect condition? However, when I went to check it out, most of the heavenly demon subduing star formation was in perfect condition. There were only a few traces of the tribulation stage. Huang Su said with a shrug. Hall Master Yu was even more puzzled. He frowned and said, could it be that Huang Qiong passed away before the tribulation stage? Damn it, that must be it. It must be those old farts from the Autumn Immortal Alliance. They knew that Huang Qiong was about to undergo the tribulation stage, so they launched a sneak attack. This. Huang Su thought for a while and said softly, I'm afraid Hall Master Yu has guessed wrongly. When I saw Huang Qiong's remains, there were indeed traces of the tribulation stage. Could it be that Huang Qiong was struck by the tribulation stage before he could activate the heavenly demon subduing star formation? Hall Master Yu was dumbfounded. This seems to be different from the tribulation stage in the legends. Huang Su said with a smile, I don't know what the real tribulation stage is like. I'm afraid we'll have to report this to our sect master. Hee, that's true. Hall Master Yu nodded. Although there are a few elders in the fallen immortal sect who have reached the Mahayana stage, our sect master is the most knowledgeable about the tribulation stage. This matter is more important to him. Hall Master Yu was puzzled. He looked at Huang Su and said, that's not right. Huang Su, Huang Qiong's remains and the heavenly demon subduing star formation are important. However, there are still a few elders in the sect. There's no need for you to rush to the meeting of the Immortal Alliance to claim credit, right? If that's the case, does Wang Qi still have the right to be the Hall Master of Jingjing Hall? Huang Su saw that he could not appease Hall Master Yu. He looked around and said, Hall Master Yu, you're really observant. If it was just Huang Qiong's remains, I wouldn't be so anxious. However, when I went to look for the remains of the Royal Dome Enlightened Master, something strange happened, and it alerted me. What happened? Hall Master Yu's curiosity was piqued. I'm not heading there for Royal Dome Enlightened Master's remains. I went there for something else. However, on my way there, I met Zhijun, Fan Di, and the other disciples of Conxian Hall. They heard the news and wanted to claim credit. They didn't inform the Hall Master of Conxian Hall. Instead, they went there together. When I heard about it, I reprimanded them for being so bold. I sent Zhijun and the other disciples back to the sect immediately while I went there with the other disciples. Huang Su explained, however, when I returned to the sect after retrieving the heavenly cycle devil subduing star formation's flag, Royal Dome Enlightened Master's corpse, and his belongings, I discovered that exiled king and the others hadn't returned. You can. Chapter 4876. How could that be? Hall Chief Yu did not seem to recognize Banished King and the rest. However, he was still shocked when he heard the news. Could it be that they met with an accident? There must have been an accident. Huang Su nodded affirmatively. After this junior reported this matter to the Hall Master, he immediately sent a disciple to invite Hall Master Yu of Conxian Hall over. At the same time, he sent a large number of disciples back to search for the whereabouts of Banished Monarch and the others. While we were waiting for Hall Chief Yu suddenly stood up and told me, no, we can't wait any longer. Since Banished King and the rest have met with an accident, someone must have found out about Royal Dome's spiritual master's remains. We must send the remains and items to the sect leader as soon as possible. Thus, Hall Chief Yu brought me to look for Hall Chief Yu. Oh. Hall Chief Yu nodded and smiled. I understand now. No wonder Wang Qi was so secretive and refused to say anything. It turns out that he had so many secrets. Yes, Hall Chief Yu. Huang Su said with a bitter face, my hall master told me again and again not to trust anyone and not to tell the truth to others. You must keep it a secret for me. TSK. Hall Chief Yu glared at Huang Su. I'm not just anyone. Moreover, the people on this airship are all my trusted aides. Look at the three of them, they are the sect leader's personal guards. How could they leak the news? Yes, that's what I thought too. That's why I dared to tell you. Huang Su heaved a sigh of relief and smiled apologetically. You've thought about it. Don't worry about it. Hall Chief Yu smiled and took out a crystal token. He activated his dermic powers and a vague topographic map appeared. On the map, there was a green dot flying rapidly. Hall Chief Yu looked at it and said, we'll reach River Origin City in 4 hours. After that, there will be teleportation portals. There won't be any accidents. Huang Su was shocked when he heard Hall Chief Yu mention the accident. He couldn't help but look out of the flying boat. At this moment, the airship was rushing into a layer of dark clouds. The thick clouds covered the light and strange shadows streaked across Huang Su's head, as if an invisible hand was brushing past him. Huang Su couldn't help but tremble slightly as he hurriedly activated his magic power to defend himself. Who is it? Hall Master Yu couldn't help but shout. Who is it? Following Hall Master Yu's voice, a burst of light shot into the sky from the flying ship nearby. The dozen or so spirit-severing stage cultivators all moved. They took out all kinds of magic treasures and covered the area within 100 miles. The magic treasure dispelled the dark clouds, and the setting sun behind the flying boat sprinkled its afterglow onto the flying boat. However, there was no one else in the sky aside from the flying boat. Seeing that there was no one around, Huang Su's heart calmed down. He hurriedly turned to Hall Master Yu and asked in a low voice, Hall Master Yu, what did you discover? This old man didn't discover anything? Hall Master Yu looked at Huang Su strangely and said, didn't you discover something and activate your magic power to defend yourself? This junior. Huang Su was speechless. After a moment of hesitation, he said, this junior is seeing things. Don't worry. Hall Master Yu waved his hand and instructed, we are getting closer to River Origin City. We must be careful, yes. The guards on the left replied in unison. Huang Su saw a large city standing between the mountains in the distance. Many cultivators were either flying, standing on flying boats, or sitting on flying beasts. Only then did he feel completely at ease. When the flying boat landed on a tall mountain at the edge of River Origin City, Hall Master Yu immediately brought Huang Su down from the flying boat and flew towards River Origin City. River Origin City's teleportation array was not difficult to find. Hall Master Yu and Huang Su hurriedly arrived at the building where the teleportation array was located. The disciples of the Strength Execution Hall who were waiting nearby immediately came over to greet them. Hall Master Yu did not explain much. He only asked, where is the sect master now? This disciple just received a message. The sect master is already rushing towards Night Wind Valley. The disciple hurriedly reported. Night Wind Valley? Huang Su did not understand. However, Hall Master Yu was shocked. Isn't that the Chu Pu Immortal Alliance's meeting? Why is he rushing towards Night Wind Valley? Could it be? At this point, Hall Master Yu did not have time to explain. He waved his hand and said, let's go, Huang Su. This old man will personally send you there. Thank you, Hall Master Yu. Huang Su was confused. However, seeing how solemn Hall Master Yu was, he did not dare to delay. He followed Hall Master Yu and stepped into the hall where the teleportation array was located. What followed next was an experience that Huang Su would never forget for the rest of his life. Huang Su was an early-stage spirit-severing stage cultivator. He was also the Vice Hall Master of the Fallen Immortal sect. What kind of teleportation array had he not seen before? However, for the next 3 days, he followed Hall Master Yu continuously through the teleportation array. Furthermore, other than a few teleportation arrays, most of them were extremely long-distance teleportation arrays. The pressure of these teleportation arrays fell on his body again and again. Although he used his cultivation method to expel the pressure, the residue of the teleportation array slowly accumulated in his body. An unbearable tiredness gradually emerged from the bottom of his heart. When he came out of the teleportation array for the last time, Huang Su suddenly felt that the world was spinning. The discomfort that ordinary low-level disciples felt when using the teleportation array appeared on a spirit-severing stage cultivator. Huang Su's body became weak and he collapsed outside the teleportation array. "Io, Vice Hall Master Huang." Hall Master Yu was slightly stunned. He hurriedly waved his hand to support Huang Su and said apologetically, "It's my fault. I didn't expect, say no more." Huang Su suppressed the disgust in his chest and stood up reluctantly. He whispered, "Let's continue walking, there's no need." Hall Master Yu was slightly moved. He looked at the guards in armor on the left and the several generals who had surrounded them and said with a smile, "We have arrived at Night Wind Valley. Don't you see that there are already guards outside the teleportation array? Who are you waiting for?" A general in the late stage of spirit-severing stage held a flying sword in his hand and asked coldly. Hall Master Yu was already prepared. He took out the token of the Fallen Immortal sect from his waist and handed it over. He said, "I'm Hall Master Yu Kong of the Fallen Immortal sect Strength Hall. This is Vice Hall Master Huang Su of the Jingjing Hall. We have urgent matters to discuss with our sect leader Xian Xiaozi." The general took the token and looked at it. He returned it to Yu Kong and said, "Your sect leader just left for less than half an hour. Hurry over. If you wait for him to enter the bounded domain, I'm afraid you can only see him after the alliance meeting." Yes, thank you." Yu Kong did not dare to be negligent. He hurriedly cupped his hands and flew out of the teleportation array with Huang Su. The teleportation array in the Night Wind Valley was located within a huge cave. As Huang Su flew out along the spacious mountain path, before he could reach the ground, a ghost-like wail and wolf-like howl could be heard from outside the mountain path. Huang Su, whose blood had just calmed down, was caught off guard. His Yuan spirit swayed and actually showed signs of leaving his body. Huang Su was shocked. He hurriedly channeled his spiritual power and pointed at a light green jade pendant on his chest. Shwa! The jade pendant glowed and instantly covered Huang Su's whole body. Phew! Huang Su's ears were quiet for a while. The howling sound had disappeared. He could not help but breathe a sigh of relief. His face became paler. Damn it! Not to mention Huang Su, who was in a hurry to deal with it. Even Yu Kong's expression changed a few times at this time. The brilliance around his body flashed quickly. He cursed, "How many months has it been? Why is the Night Wind Valley so terrifying?" Huang Su had not heard of the name Night Wind Valley before. However, when he flew to the ground with Yu Kong, he immediately understood the origin of the name. He saw that it was an almost skyless valley. The surroundings were covered in gray dust. The huge mountain peak was like a lonely giant that covered the place where his spiritual sense swept through. The sky was filled with storms and sand. When the sand fell on the mountain peak, it was like a stream of water. Not only did it strike the mountain peak, but it also fell down like a stream of water. Thousands of strange fine lines were engraved on the left side of the small pits. The storm was also like a roaring wind spirit that blew aimlessly on the mountain peak. When the wind blew past the small pits and the strange fine lines, it naturally produced a strange howling sound. The howling sound of the wind rose and fell in the tens of thousands of miles of the valley. It was comparable to a huge array. Even a spirit-severing stage cultivator like Huang Su would lose his soul for a long time if he fell into it. However, in this skyless valley, amidst the oppressive storm, in the east, there was a gentle light pillar that pierced through the dust and appeared in front of Yukong and Huang Su's eyes. "Let's go." Yukong raised his hand and pointed at the light pillar. "That is the place where the Tao Alliance gathers. A long time ago, this old man came here with the sect master." "The Tao Alliance gatherings?" Huang Su was dumbfounded. He had never thought that he would be able to barge into the Tao Alliance gatherings. However, Huang Su was the only one who was confused. He flew with Yukong for a while. When he saw that the sandstorm had disrupted the light protecting him and Yukong, he called out softly, "Hall Master you, let's teleport over. What nonsense are you spouting?" Li Kong laughed. Ignoring the fact that teleporting so close to the Tao Alliance's assembly is disrespectful, even this Nightwind Gorge has been sealed away by the Tao Alliance's spirit treasures. How could we possibly teleport here? Huang Su was helpless. He could only follow Yukong and fly with all his might. He had never been teleported in such a sorry state before. He had never flown in such an awkward manner. As Huang Su flew, he discovered that there seemed to be people in the storm nearby. However, wherever his spiritual sense and eyes scanned, he couldn't see any human figures. Furthermore, as he flew, a heavy pressure gradually formed. The sandstorm was like a swamp, obstructing Huang Su's flight. Even the nascent soul in his body was gradually being sealed. He was also unable to circulate his true essence as he wished. When he looked at the light pillar in the distance, it seemed to be forever far away. No matter how he flew, he couldn't get close to it. Chapter 48-77. Dong. The sound of the bell rang like a tsunami. Even the storm was silenced by the sound. "Oh no!" Yukong exclaimed. "The conference is about to begin. What should we do?" Huang Su's heart was filled with regret. After all, he had already made it this far. How could he not catch up with Xian Xiaozi? All his efforts had been for naught. Forget it. Yukong sighed. Let's wait until sect leader comes out of the conference. It's just Huang Qiong's spiritual masters. At this moment, a surprised voice rang out. Yukong? Oh, Huang Su, why are you here? Could it be that something big has happened in the sect? Huang Su was overjoyed to hear this familiar voice, and he turned toward his right hand, only to discover that several body integration cultivators were rushing toward him from where the storm had fallen silent. Wasn't the person standing at the edge of the circle his sect leader, Xian Xiaozi? Xian Xiaozi looked very young. His face was as round as a full moon, and his two bright eyes were filled with surprise. Xian Xiaozi wore a faint golden Dao crown on his head. A pearl the size of a fist was embedded in the crown. The pearl shone with a golden brilliance. Not only did the brilliance block the sand that was pouncing on his face, it also shone on his face, giving off an indescribable glow. Huang Su's heart finally settled when he saw Xian Xiaozi. However, before he could say anything, Yukong hurriedly stepped forward and bowed. Greetings, sect leader. Sect leader, something big has happened in the sect. However, this is a joyous occasion. It's not what sect leader wants. I've personally escorted Huang Su here. Please report this to me in detail. Greetings, sect leader. Huang Su was a little displeased that Yukong had taken the lead. However, he was overjoyed when he heard Yukong's courteous words. He hurriedly stepped forward and said respectfully, Disciple, Xian Xiaozi, the bell has already rung once. If it doesn't ring 3 times, we will be expelled. A cultivator beside Xian Xiaozi indifferently glanced at Huang Su and the others, and reminded them in a displeased manner. Xian Xiaozi smiled and turned around. Fellow cultivators, please excuse me. I have some matters to attend to in the sect. Before they could leave, Xian Xiaozi said anxiously, Huang Su, make it short. Yes, sect leader. Huang Su did not dare to speak too loudly. He raised his hand and took off the storage bracelet on his hand before handing it to Xian Xiaozi. He only transmitted his voice to Xian Xiaozi. I found the place where spiritual master Huang Qiong underwent his tribulation in the Fengyan Kingdom's Xia mountain range. Ah. You actually found it? Xian Xiaozi was shocked as he stared at the storage ring in Huang Su's hand in disbelief. He reached out to grab it and transmitted his voice to Huang Su. The heavens truly reward those who persevere. Huang Su, this old man understands. When we return to the mountain gate, this old man will definitely record your merit. That's not all. Huang Su looked at Xian Xiaozi as he accepted the storage ring and felt a wave of relief wash over him. He hurriedly sent a voice transmission to Xian Xiaozi and said, I've also found a secret technique for selecting spiritual roots. It can solve the problem of the fallen immortal sect selection. Just as Huang Su said this, dong. Another bell chime sounded. This time, it was 3 times louder than the previous one, and the sound was also twice as long. There's no time. Xian Xiaozi hurriedly moved and said, Yukong, take Huang Su with you and turn back first. Once I return to my sect, I'll report to them in detail. Yes, sect leader. Yukong replied. Huang Su shouted, I've recorded all the details in this jade slip. Sect leader will know once you see it. All right. Xian Xiaozi waved his hand and rushed into the storm and disappeared. Let's go. After the second bell chime, the restrictive force in the surrounding space increased tremendously. Yukong could not take it anymore and hurriedly said, when the third bell chime, the Tao Alliance's Alliance Conference will begin. The Night Wind Valley will be sealed off. If we don't make it back in time, I'm afraid others will misunderstand. Thank you, Hall Master Yu. Huang Su knew that he had succeeded. Although chasing to the Tao Alliance's Alliance Conference and passing the jade slip to Xian Xiaozi was making a mountain out of a molehill, wasn't this the effect that Huang Su wanted? He smiled and cupped his fists towards Yukong. Hee. Yukong had personally come to send him off. How could he return empty-handed? He smiled and did not say anything else. Instead, he rushed into the storm in the distance. As the sect leader, how could Xian Xiaozi not know what Yukong and Huang Su were thinking? However, he was still very happy as he moved his body and flew towards the light pillar not far away. After all, he had already found the remains of spiritual master Huang Qiong during his tribulation. This would be of great use to his cultivation and even his future tribulation. His fellow Taoists had already disappeared. In the nearby storm, there were a few faint figures who were in a hurry just like Xian Xiaozi. They did not have time to talk to each other. After a while, the storm weakened. The warm jade color was like sunlight that filled the world. A valley that seemed to be several thousand miles in size was revealed before Xian Xiaozi's eyes under the bright sunlight. The valley was filled with jade pillars. Every single one of them shone with a blinding light. The light gathered together to form a pillar of light that supported the heavens and the earth. It was as if the heavens and the earth were split open. At this moment, there were cultivators sitting cross-legged on top of the jade pillars. These cultivators were solemn and silent, as if they were meditating. The moment Xian Xiaozi's body touched the jade color, he opened his mouth and a palm-sized jade piece flew out. The jade piece was covered with veins like a green leaf. As he thought about it, he blew another mouthful of true energy onto the jade piece. Swoosh swoosh. With a soft sound, the veins on the jade piece extended out and landed on a jade pillar in the distance. At the same time, the jade piece expanded rapidly and turned into a leaf-like praying mat. It landed at Xian Xiaozi's feet. Xian Xiaozi did not dare to hesitate. He quickly sat down cross-legged. Swoosh. The praying mat turned into a stream of light and shot through the jade color. It landed on a jade pillar not far away. Dang! The cattail hassock fell, and the third bell rang. Except for the space near the jade pillar, all the jade colors emitted a crisp sound like a frozen lake. Kacha. A kind of solidification spread out in all directions. Damn it. A furious voice could be heard vaguely. About 1,000 meters away from Xian Shaozi, an old man dressed in a crimson Taoist robe was holding an identical piece of jade in his hand. When he saw that the color of the jade had solidified, he did not dare to fight against it. He cursed angrily and quickly retreated. It was obvious that he had arrived late and could not participate in the Alliance conference. Almost. Xian Shaozi felt lucky. He raised his hand and was about to take out the jade slip from his storage ring to check it out. Boom, boom, boom. Right at that moment, a rumbling sound rang out from the valley. The jade pillar beneath Xian Shaozi shook violently and slowly rose into the sky. About 10 kilometers away from Xian Shaozi, another jade pillar that was several hundred meters thick was emitting a faint golden light. It soared into the sky several times more fiercely than the jade pillar beneath Xian Shaozi. On top of that jade pillar, a cultivator who looked like a child was sitting cross-legged. Although the jade pillar's radiant light was restricting his aura, it still exuded a majestic and oppressive aura. What's going on? Xian Shaozi felt a little puzzled. He looked at the place before him, and his gaze landed on the gigantic jade pillar. He thought to himself, Alliance Chief 1, why did you enter the Alliance gathering in such a hurry without even saying the usual greetings? Xian Shaozi. A voice rang out in Xian Shaozi's ears. Xian Shaozi hurriedly looked to the side. Another cultivator, whose back was originally facing him, was now facing Alliance Lord 1, who was at the center of the hall. The cultivator turned his head to look at Xian Shaozi and sent him a voice transmission. The Tao Alliance's Alliance Conference is supposed to be held once every 500 years. It has only been 200 years since the last Alliance Conference. Why is it suddenly convening? Could it be that there's something urgent? Xian Shaozi looked at the old cultivator and recognized him. He was Yu Jiangling, the head of the Yu clan, an early-stage Mahayana cultivator. Xian Shaozi did not dare to be negligent. He hurriedly transmitted his voice with a smile, Senior Yu, you're the most powerful person in our Tsupu Immortal Alliance. If even you don't know, how could I know? You really don't know? Yu Jiangling was not surprised. Rather than saying that it was a rhetorical question, it was more like stating a fact. Xian Shaozi nodded and said, I received Alliance Master Wen's message and thought that it was a meeting of our Tsupu Immortal Alliance. However, before I could rush to River Origin City, Alliance Master Wen actually issued an emergency summon, urging all the sect masters, loose cultivators, and family heads of the 18 countries of the Immortal Alliance to come to Night Wind Valley. I rushed here without stopping. How could I have received any news? That's strange. Yu Jiangling pinched his chin and looked into the distance. His gaze even went past the jade pillar where Alliance Master 1 was standing. He said in a low voice, what's going on in our Yilan continent? Why is there such a huge commotion? When I received Wen Jie's message that day, I was puzzled. There's still more than 10 years until the 100-year Alliance meeting. There's no need to guess. Xian Shaozi also looked into the distance and said, when the Alliance meeting comes, we'll naturally know. In any case, our Tsupu Immortal Alliance is located at the very edge of the Tao Alliance. Everything has nothing to do with us. At this moment, the entire jade-colored space had already been sealed. Everyone's divine senses could no longer travel very far. However, Xian Shaozi could already see that aside from the sect masters, family heads, and loose cultivators of the 18 countries of the Tsupu Immortal Alliance, the Autumn Immortal Alliance, the Qiangwei Immortal Alliance, and the Flying Feather Immortal Alliance had also arrived. The Autumn Immortal Alliance's Alliance Master, esteemed Yanxiu, the Qiangwei Immortal Alliance's Alliance Master, Reverend Jie Sang, and the Flying Feather Immortal Alliance's Alliance Master, Fairy Ni Xia, were also sitting on the 3 jade pillars far away from Alliance Master Wen Jie. Xian Xiaozi didn't need to extend his divine senses any further. He knew that aside from the 3 alliance masters that he could see with his own eyes, 9 of the 81 immortal alliances of the Dao Alliance must have already gathered in Night Wind Valley. The Sword Alliance's Alliance Master, Shi Zhong, the Jiangxia Immortal Alliance's Alliance Master, Ji Yuzi, the Boshan Immortal Alliance's Alliance Master, Han Sun, the Enlightenment Alliance's Alliance Master, Qi Yuzi, and the Lake Sage Pill Alliance's Alliance Master, Qi Yuzi, were also sitting in places that he couldn't see. You're tuning into the Romantic Tales YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.